Get rolling. We're missing a few committee members, but we'll get started here. I can see you halfway. I got a part of us, part of you. Anyway, I'd like to start just with introductions of who's in the room right now, and then later more FWP staff will be available as we get into PALA and other topics. So, Jason.
Yeah. So I can start. I'm just the meeting facilitator, Jason Cool, Hunting Access Program Manager. So PLPW is one of my administrative responsibilities. So just helping someone that need that one. So we do have other staff here.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Alex Golovino, Deputy Chief Legal Counsel.
Glenn Cudjoe, Fish Wildlife Parks Director's Office. Morning.
Renee Lemon, Parks and Outdoor Recreation Division Administrator.
Michael Wilkerson, Chief of Administration.
All right, and Katie's on there right now too, but that's good. Hi.
A number of access staff on too, so we'll just
Okay. So for a roll call, I'm here. And we see Stephanie's on, Craig is on, Chris, Paul, Cindy, Donna, and Dave. Hey, Dale's on. Anybody hear us that we've missed? Oh, I see Lee's there now, right?
Yep, Lee is here.
I can see you with my good eye, Lee. It's a long ways for me. Okay. So we're pretty good. All right. So today we're going to look through one of our priorities being technology. That's going to be our first subject today. And Michael is going to walk us through where they're at and what their goals and ambitions are after a lot of work. And then we'll take a break after that and come back and look at PALA agreements and go through those as each of you have done in your regions. After that, we're going to look at a presentation of the access program stats at this point in time. So all the numbers related to the access programs, and Jason will be doing that. Then we'll have a time for public comment, and then we'll get into our June meeting planning. Any questions from anyone at this point? Okay, well, it's great to see a couple of you. I can only see Chris and Dave, but Chris, you look better than the last time I saw you.
What?
I said you look better than the last time I saw you.
I always thought I always looked good, but I guess not. I just wish you guys would have picked a different day. Yesterday and today is so beautiful. Tomorrow it's going to rain and snow. I mean, I could be out today working. So if you could coordinate it next time on a rainy day.
Just so you know, we did check with the weatherman like a month ago.
Yeah.
And they said it's a 50-50 today. Sorry.
Right now, I wish it was 50-50 every day. So it's dry. Dry everywhere.
Hopefully it's beautiful everywhere. All right. So we'll get rolling with the best.
All right. Well, I'm going to introduce myself first because I don't know most of you guys. My name is Michael Wilkerson. I've been here 4 months, so keep that in mind. I came from the Department of Agriculture, DPHHS. I've worked primarily in HR and IT. My position is on the IT. I like to say I understand IT, but I'm not IT because they're two very different things. But I am over IT, which is the topic today. My job is over IT, HR, accounting, budget, licensing, fleet, all of those things at the state that has to kind of crunch and work to make everything else work, all those internal operations. So when I first got here, Christy did task me with looking at technology, specifically licensing, BMA, some reporting. And so we have made some progress. I thought I would just go ahead and let you guys know where we're at, what we're doing. And then if you guys have any questions, go ahead and let me know. The question I get asked quite a bit is on our licensing system. I think that's something that we've been working on for a while as an agency. I know that it's been a conversation across years and maybe some frustrations back and forth. What we have done as of this point is we've done quite a bit of work as far as business requirements and putting together an RFP. We've also looked at some vendors, and I'm going to step back and explain a little bit about IT initiatives. When you build systems such as licensing, you basically have two choices. Now, obviously, there's a range, but the two choices are called, one is called COTS. It's commercial off the shelf, which means you buy a system that's already pre-programmed. It does what it does. And then the other one is an internal build, where we have our own internal development team go ahead and build a system for us. Our current licensing system is an internal build. It's something that we've used for, I don't know how many years, maybe 20 years. So it's time to do something different, or at least something new. We looked back and forth on internal build. We looked at COTS. We've landed on doing a COTS solution. So that's a commercial off the shelf. So the process to do a COTS solution is to, one, figure out what's out there. So we spent quite a bit of time looking at other states, what kind of systems they use, what vendors they use, if they like it, all of that kind of stuff. We brought a couple of vendors in at the state here for FWP Montana. We've looked at them to see what they can do. And we've found that we feel that there's an off-the-shelf solution out there, probably a few, that will work for our needs. So for that reason, we've decided to do a COTS solution rather than building our own. So that's the path we're on. The process to do that is to create an RFP, a request for proposal. So we put together all of our business requirements, what we need this vendor to do. We kick it out to DOA, and then DOA posts that for solicitations from vendors. And then we get the vendors back who can do, they say what they can do. We go ahead and we rate those and we choose one, and then we do a contract. And then we go ahead and have them come in and bring their system with us. Now that's a simplified version. Obviously, there's a lot of steps on all of that. But where we're at right now is we have the RFP, I would say 99% done. We did one last look where we took that RFP, which is the requirements, and we kicked it out to the division administrators, different people, to take one last look and make sure we've captured what we need. And we plan on having that to DOA by the end of the month, the end of April, so in the next week and a half. So that's where we are at licensing. I don't know if there's, you want me to keep yapping and moving on, if you guys have any questions on that.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I signed up, I applied for my licenses, and I decided I would try the electronic on my phone app, and I can't get them to open on my phone whatsoever. I called the department, and we did 2 password resets. We did 2 complete deletes on my account, and still could not get me my account to open up. And I don't know what's going on. Is that something you're looking into? Is that something that's going to be fixed? Or because I know right now I can't even access mine on my app.
Well, that's a great question. We do have we built the app, I believe it was maybe a year ago, 2 years ago. It's fairly recently. We also have a mobile app contractor that we brought in because that's a special skill set. And we are working on that. And I am going to hedge that a little bit, right? Is we are working that because obviously that has to work. I don't know about your specific case, but our mobile app developers are taking those tickets and working on that. When we go to the COTS solution, we are requiring them to have that mobile app built in. So my answer is short term, we are absolutely looking at our current mobile app interface and any issues that we saw. I can't speak to yours specifically. Long-term, we are requiring that mobile app to be a part of ongoing and future licenses as well. So I apologize that you had to go through that. And we are working on the short-term fixes as well as a long-term initiative, because that's kind of the way of the future, right? Everybody's on their app these days. So it's a big deal.
And Paul, I might just say, as a licensed dealer, this was the year we went from the ALS system, which has been there since we went from getting licenses to a system, the ALS system. And this year he moved from the ALS system to the OLS system, which is really an online format to allow you to buy your licenses at home. And the app has been separate.
Yeah.
And so I think right now, this year, you have a situation where you have two different parts, the app and the OLS being utilized, and they're not married very well. In our world of technology, this is a beta test that's about to come to an end. Kind of,
yeah.
the way it sits now, that's how I see it. And to your point, Paul, we saw plenty of people that had challenges in the beginning of this, but it's kind of settled down now that we have the license deadline or the drawing commit deadline for elk particularly. So I think we've seen the biggest hit of that. So
Appreciate that. One thing we're implementing this year, I don't know that we've done in the past, is called a retrospective. So we have a meeting next week with licensing, IT, and accounting, and our project management team to go over the things that went well and the things that did not go well, this licensing piece. And some of that transition to our new system, there was definitely some hiccups. There's some hiccups with the app. So just so you know that we are proactively looking at that, not just from the tech side, but holistically, the licensing and the tech side and how that's married. To use your words, I like that. And so we are looking at that. I can't speak to yours specifically, but those are definitely on our radar.
any other questions? And again, that portion is licensing. So obviously they've got to get that right in the new system.
Yeah, and there's a lot of states that use these costs. I mean, we're gonna get this new system done. I know you guys may have heard that before. But we are gonna get it done. I guess I'm here and I know our technology team is great, our licensing team is great. I think Christy, our director, might kill me if we don't get this. I'm kidding, she's super nice. But it's high on her list, it's a priority. We gotta get this done. So we do plan on rolling that out. I'm gonna throw out 2028, and I know that feels off by a year, but we also need to make sure that we do it right. We can't be rolling anything out during licensing, obviously, during March, during February, during April. So a lot of that extra year and a half to get that new system out is to make sure that we facilitate people's schedules, hunting, fishing, all of those acts, all the dates that you guys know better than I do. We have to fit that all in as well. So we're going to do it right and we're going to get it done. And the goal with the COT system is that these things are already, to my opinion, proven effective in other states, right? And so we won't be building technology to fix all these bugs. That technology should be built. One piece to keep in mind when we do that is because when you take tech, and I use your word because I like that, Ed, marry, right? You're marrying tech to the program. So in this case, technology to licensing, and it's a cost. So it's already built and it's doing its thing. Now we have to put them together. So there's going to have to be some give on both sides, meaning the tech, it might have to change a little to match FWP in Montana. And the business processes, we might have to change a little internally to match that as well. So that's going to be a little bit of, take some time to make sure we do that right as well. So that is our plan with licensing. Okay, the other one that I've been tasked with is the block management. and also some reporting, harvest reporting. So those are tied closely to licensing. And so we're looking at doing COTS for both of those as well. We have business requirements already put together for those. I do like to hedge a little bit and say that licensing is our priority. I think in the past, we may have tried to do it all at once, and it was hard to get it all done or to find somebody. I'm not sure, I'm fairly new, but that was a piece of it. So I don't want to get in the way of licensing by doing too much at once. So this is our plan, is licensing is first. If some other things can come along with it, meaning that the vendor we choose can also do block management and harvest, we can bring those along around the same time. If they don't, we're gonna get licensing right, and then we're gonna go do the BMA and the harvest reporting as well. And we're looking at vendors for both of those as well, which means that COT solution. If for some reason we can't find a COT, then we can do an internal, but our preference is COTS.
Questions? So kind of a background, we've been talking about technology for a long time in regards to relieving pressure on type 2 blocks, particularly, but I'm hoping that we can find a COT that will somehow allow for the type 2 reservation, in a way landowners want to engage it. That's at their convenience and to their benefit. But also on the type 1, that is there going to be any way to, we talked about this a little bit, check in. So right now we have a type 1 block, you sign in at a sign-in box, and then we collect whatever data we have. And Jason always refers to those stats. It's a fairly low return when you look at the number of participants, hunters. So do any of those COTS appear to have any of that connectivity to our type of access programs?
I believe they do, but I'm going to kick it to Jason because he's more familiar with the program than I am.
Sure. So yeah, we had the opportunity to demo about 5 different companies that do reservations in this space. One of the features of pretty much all of them was a mobile check-in, check-out process. Most often the vendors we looked at were using it for military base type work. So applicable to our, probably not the size of scale, but very similar concepts in the check-in, check-out. And then the post opportunity satisfaction or harvest components as well. So all of the off-the-shelf products we looked at all had that feature, that functionality. Kind of staggering process related to Michael's timeline of how that would actually roll out.
Questions on BMA or harvest? I have one other thing I want to share with you guys, but I want to make sure I catch. It's a pivot from this topic.
So just to follow up to that, Jason, so it does have that mobile opportunity. I trust that's solid.
We talked about some of that where you're on network or off network. A lot of that will be on cell coverage, I think, with some of those systems. The other system we saw had similar to a time and date stamp. So when you for those that use e-tags, it's very similar to that process where you validate your e-tag even though you're off network, and then once you get back on network, it would sync back to where you're at. We didn't talk too much about like the text through satellite capabilities that some of the carriers have now. But that may be something we could explore in the future. Ironically, as we start talking about like mobile check-in, it's interesting because we have a number of landowners that were frustrated with us when we went from a roster style sign-in to the coupon style, because they want to see who's on their property and where and when at all times, and they want to go take the book out of the box and look through it and see who they like, they don't like, etc. But going mobile will help prevent some of that as well, because we've had books stolen, we've had marketing companies that are in this space find a client list that way. So it's always good to try and protect customer data best we can. We feel a mobile platform would help do some of that as well. Cows aren't knocking the box off the fence, and the wind's not sending the coupons halfway across the country. So all those things are good features of technology.
And I tend to be more frank than not, so this is my frankness, is as we roll out these cots, right? The plus with the cot solution is it's pre-built, it's tested, it's proven. The vendor are experts in that, so they're quick to respond. Get a good vendor, obviously. There's a lot of advantages to that. I guess the disadvantage is sometimes you do have to change your business to match the cots. When you don't do that, if you change the cots to match your business, things just exponentially explode as far as service, cost, ability to respond, because now they're going into their code and changing. So their upgrades each year are difficult. You get back to some difficulties you have with a building make yourself. So as we go through this, these things that are kind of basic, like mobile apps and ability to upload and download, are probably there in a very significant way. It's probably going to be the internal business processes where we do things a specific way that we're going to have to change a little bit. So that's something to watch for. And it's a trade-off, but I think the trade-off is going to be well worth it. And so Jess Plunkett's online, and she said, Paul, that she sees your ticket and she's going to have somebody look at that for you.
But we're going to charge you $50, Paul. Doing that.
Well, and I'm a Mountain Dew person, so.
Say Michael, case of Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
But as to that point, so some of the things that directly relate to like block reservations, right? Is that we have different ways of taking reservations. Some regions do it weekly, some do it on these days and these hours, some do it all at the beginning. So having a system that can handle that will help reframe some of our processes to that exact true example where we might have to change how we do reservations for properties because of the solution that exists. Sure. But right now we do it because of the way we have capacity and historically 30 years of just doing it differently. So that'd be an example of how we would modify the process to adapt to Dale. Go ahead, Dale.
Just a quick question. Of course, I've been a proponent of the modernization and the using technology. But one question I have, Jason, is that on some of the BMAs that I hunt, there are signs that they ask that you put in on your mirror and on your front dash. If you went to an electronic sign in, either for type 1 or type 2, how might that be handled? Is it something you could print off on your computer and stick it in your mirror? Are you still going to be required to stop by a sign-in box and pick up one of those, which kind of defeats the purpose of having electronic sign-in? And it's just one of the little things that I'm sure the regions and the Helen office will work through, but I'm just wondering if you've thought about that aspect. Thank you.
Yeah, we have, Dale, where you would ideally that is stored on your phone. If you're a tech savvy person, you wouldn't have to have a secondary form of permission. Some of these properties, to your point, want that. And so we could either issue that through the office once you secure your reservation and or provide that to a hunter to print off on their own. I know seems like the wave of the future is to not have printers at all either, just like not have DVD players. I'm not there yet. I'm not that tech savvy, but so I hate to rely on a customer to have to print off something and store it, but that could be an option with any of these systems we've looked at.
Other questions?
So quick pivot. And then one last thing on the COTS internal build. I do always like to remind people that our internal build team is great, right? This isn't about that. This is about a different process that'll get us to where we need to be a little bit faster and with more options that are already built from an expert vendor who does that. So with that, our other thing that we've been working on is data across the agency. We had a data summit about, was that maybe 2 months ago? A month and a half, 2 months ago, where we brought in data experts from around the agency. Probably had maybe 40 people there, division administrators, IT, people who work with a lot of data, input data, take data out. And we talked about how all the data across the agency right now, we have some disparate systems, which is not unusual. In fact, it's normal everywhere. But the initiative is to look at data so that we can start defining it better and bringing it together across systems so that we can make more forward-thinking decisions based on data. So we're just starting that effort. But that's another initiative we have, is to get better at data with our agency, both in how we put it into the system, how we collect it, and how we kick it out of the system. So that's another big initiative we have. Yeah, that's all I got.
Pretty easy. So I would just ask all of you, as much as we've looked at technology in regards to the need for it with access and access issues, while you have Michael here at the moment, are there questions from the past or needs from the past that come to your mind right now that you would like to communicate to her? I know this is quick and short, but a number of you have had a lot of input in the past about how to utilize technology to improve the access programs. So anybody have anything they'd like to point out or ask of Michael right now?
There's been a lot of talk in the past about reporting, harvest reporting. Is this something you feel you gonna be able to tie into your apps and stuff for that? Because there's a huge demand out there. I'm hearing a lot of legislators talking about doing it again this session coming up. And so I think it's going to be an issue. And that's something maybe the PLPW will want to address is I don't think we want to call it mandatory reporting, but I think harvest reporting is pretty crucial, I think, and a lot of talk about it across a lot of other groups and legislature.
Yeah, and I agree. And Quentin just stepped out. But that's the third one that I've been tasked with is licensing, BMA, and harvest reporting. So just so you know, that's on the director's radar in a significant way. The vendors we looked at had a reporting piece. So we hope that it will meet our needs, but it's an important month of a need that we need to make sure we hit the need. So when I use the word hope, that means we haven't dug into it with specificity on the vendor side to see if it's going to meet our needs. We have dug into it significantly on our needs side with our business. We know what we need. So we haven't yet married those, meaning if we find a vendor, we'll do a COTS. If we don't, we have everything in place to set up and do an internal build. So I thank you for bringing that up. I did write it down. It is on Christy and Quentin's radar and therefore on my radar in a significant way. So yes, we are calling it harvest reporting for the same reason you just mentioned. So.
Any other questions?
Go ahead, Craig, and then Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question to Mikel. If when you're talking about vendors, and we know we've discussed kind of the fact that other states are kind of already waded into this sort of automated registration system. I guess my question is FWP unique enough that you really can't learn and kind of observe what other states have done? Are we starting from zero, or do some of these vendors already operate with some of these other states and have knowledge of how those are working? I mean, I guess, are we ahead of the game by knowing how other states have handled this? I guess that's my question to you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. A lot of states are using vendors. We are looking at the vendors those states use specifically because we know whether they've had success. We know what that state does. Montana, I'm hearing, and I'm not the expert that you guys are on all of the programs. So what I'm hearing is Montana is absolutely unique. We do a lot of cool things, the way our programs are run, our licensings that we offer, the way we run our BMA, and we don't want to lose that uniqueness. And so to answer your question directly, we are ahead of the game in that we can see what other states have done. We did look at some vendors to make sure they could do this, and we have a great list of requirements to put together. Where the rubber meets the road, right, is when we get the actual vendor and the requirements. And we're going to take a lot of time to put those together. One thing that I am huge on, because I've worked in tech enough to know that there's always this space between IT and the program. I mean, it just is. IT is a language that most of us don't speak. Thankfully, we have a lot of tech people that do. And then the business people know their programs with specificity and details that tech and other people don't, like Jason, that other people don't understand. So that space that sits in between there is a lot of times where we get messed up on our tech initiatives because we're not saying the same thing or understanding. And the way I look at it is this tech is driven by the business side. The tech doesn't drive the business drives the tech. And when you're with the COTS, that seems a little like I'm saying two different things, but I'm not. The business drives the requirements, and then the tech is what happens. Like the tech doesn't get to pick. So at some point, there will come a time when we know a little more details where Jason and team and vendor and our technology team will sit down and they're going to have to define that. What happens when things go wrong is that space doesn't get defined. People think it's defined mostly, but they don't get into the details. And those details that kill you in technology. So that is our strategy in a place that we're going to make sure that we catch, like you said, the specificity and uniqueness of Montana, making sure the business drives that and makes the decision, right? As I just said, we're going to change our business processes to match COTS. Sometimes there's places where we absolutely can't. And that's going to be a business decision to decide what we can and cannot do. And that's the goal, to catch that uniqueness of Montana while melding it with something that's pre-built. So it's a bit of a space right now that we're going to have to do, but that's the strategy to get there. And I think where a lot of places get a little bit flubbed up.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I might have missed this, but I'm guessing with the block management sign up as having a component on the app, that the little survey card would also be part of it, where you could do the, quick click, satisfactory, did you harvest, what were you hunting? I'm assuming you guys are considering that as well as part of that component.
Yes, absolutely. That would be the goal, to incorporate for both types of block management.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I made a note of that too.
Anybody else? Sorry. Not with their hand raised.
So
No, yeah, Dale just raised his hand.
go ahead, Dale.
It's okay.
Months or years ago, as this discussion has evolved with our organization or group, one of the concerns that has been raised numerous times was they have the opening date to get reservations, and you call a person and you call them 5 minutes after the opening time, they said, we're full for the season. And I know that was a motion for a lot of people saying, hey, we need to have some type of electronic sign-in. I don't know. I'm not a tech guy or an IT person, and I don't know if there's a fix to that. But I guess Mikhail, I just would like you to be cognizant that that was a real concern with a lot of people. And if there's a way that that can be incorporated into this, I think that's very important.
Kind of speaking to that on two different fronts, we do expect to have a lottery / drawing for reservation opportunities. So for those high demand places where we have, well, high demand for the limited opportunity, and having some sort of a lottery where you could sign up in advance and then select your dates and then be randomized rather than trying to crash phone lines at one time, which we've done before, is one of the requirements of the program from Block's side of it. The other discussion we had, and we didn't really resolve it, but probably leaning towards no, would be forcing landowners to use it. And so in that situation, we wouldn't want to force a landowner to have to use a system. This again is kind of optional, but those kinds of discussions happen. So if we do get situations where we have issues, I know our regional staff go back and pull permission slips and verify who's there and when was there to try and put some validity to those concerns. But those are kind of the two areas we'd see to address those specific concerns.
Thank you.
And this is the reason the business has to drive the decisions, right? Just listening to Jason answer all these questions that I honestly could not answer. So appreciate it.
Go ahead, Cindy.
I just want to make sure that bots can't be used.
That's a good comment as well. And one thing we've looked at as far as load testing and trying to secure reservations, we'd have to work with that vendor on, to your point about trying to have a bot secure reservations, especially for some of these very high demand and coveted properties.
That's a good point.
Or whatever the technical term is. I'm not, like I said, not the tech guy, but I know what you're talking about.
Me too.
I've seen it happen with tickets, or concert tickets or whatnot. So
Yeah. Thanks, Cindy.
Anybody else?
no.
So backing up just on the RFP, can you describe that a little bit as far as your 99% there you feel?
Mhm.
What did that really identify in that part of the process?
So it's about, I don't even remember, 60 page document. It identifies our major needs for the licensing. So, and I'd have to bring it up, but not 4 months. So I'm not familiar with all the requirements that came from the business side, what the licensing system has to do, how it has to interface with all the other systems around the agency, what we expect the vendor to do. So for example, we made a point of putting there that during our busy times like March or the draw, that we have instant support if something goes wrong. So it's how the vendor interacts, what licensing has to do, and then how licensing, it has to be able to interact with all of our other software platforms. A mobile app is in there. I know that's a requirement as well. Yeah, those are the high level, but like I said, it's about a 40 to 60 page document.
So is there a like RFP for the access programs? That kind of effort on the access programs?
So yes and no. Right now the access programs are embedded in the licensing. What we're trying to do philosophically is to tie BMA and harvest reporting to licensing without tanking licensing. Like I said, if you get it too big, one piece doesn't work, you just kind of tank the whole system. So we wrote it in such a way where licensing, for lack of a better word, wins. If we find something that does licensing but doesn't do well for BMA or doesn't do well for harvest, we still choose this for licensing.
Yeah.
But if licensing is good and BMA is good and or harvest is good, then we're pulling those along with us. So best case scenario, we come out with 2 or 3 of those with this RFP. Lesser case scenario, which is still a good, which is where we would be anyway. So normal case scenario is we get licensing where access, they don't have a good access component. It attaches to this licensing. And then we would go out with separate RFP for BMA. What we have done on the access as well as we did what's called RFI, which is a request for information. So the RFP goes out and gets people, vendors to actually tell us what they're going to do and how much it's going to cost. And RFI is just information. So licensing, we knew there were vendors out there. Access is so much trickier, especially with all the details in the uniqueness of Montana. We're just weren't sure. So we did an RFI. So we kick it out to all the vendors and people that be wherever it goes in procurement cloud land for a request for information. And so that says, hey, we're thinking about doing this. If you can, tell us how, when, where, and why you can do it. So it doesn't lock us into using that vendor, but it does tell us if there's vendors out there. So that's something that we've done for BMA, and that should be ending here pretty soon, where we will get all of that back. So if for some reason that access doesn't tie well to licensing, we're already well down the road for an RFP because we have business requirements put out really well from Jason's team. And now we also know the vendors that can do it. And we've also looked at 5 vendors on what they can't do. So we're I was going to make up the number, but maybe 70% down the road, right? We'll have to take all that information, put it together, and create a document for the RFP. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, because to Craig's question about, other states doing other things, I don't know, it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we did kind of a state by state look at access programs. And Craig, we looked at what do they offer that we don't, or how they parallel, or maybe there's something great there to pick up on. But the challenge is that I don't remember seeing anything either as broad or effective anywhere as Montana has. And so I think that component is probably going to be pretty much in that whole other development.
And it could be, and Jason,
Other than the reservations.
yeah, no, that's fair. Jason has not been shy about pushing the uniqueness of Montana reservations, and that I use a competitive edge that we have in Montana by allowing that differently than other states do. So again, that would be when we find the vendor, whether or not they can maneuver their system to capture that. If they can, great. If they can't, then have a build. And we have done an internal build to a point. And so we also have worked down the road at least somewhat on an internal build if we have to as well. So there will be a decision point to specificity at some point. But just so you know, Jason's been advocating for that very heavily.
So you get that by 2028 for the licensing. You have a similar educated guess to 70% beyond that.
Well, and I would give, when's the next PLPW meeting? Is that
June.
In June?
1st of June.
Because we probably won't have our RFP back and scored by then, but we should hopefully by October-ish, November.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll know more. We put a soft date on that, wasn't it, for 2020?
Yeah, ideally, that would be probably the same timeline because we would need to get that RFP figured out, select the vendor, figure out all the process pieces for block, which puts us already in the spring of next year. And so by the time you secure that, then front load it with all the stuff, educate the public on all of it. We're probably well past July of 2027. So that'd be a similar goal from program side to be like a 2028 spring pilot or even a 2028 fall full online capabilities for access.
Those are our goals. And again, to be frank, licensing is our first priority. So we don't want to make any promises on BMA other than it's a huge priority. It's right next to licensing. If things go well, have one vendor that can do it all, it's going to be faster. If we don't, as soon as we know that, we are down the road on the RFP. So I'm not gonna be promising any dates, but that would be a reasonable date. Is that a fair answer?
Yeah, I mean, just to generalize,
Yeah.
I mean, 28 is a lot closer than you think.
I'm
When
gonna
you
do
look
it
at
right
implementing
too.
things.
Right,
Yeah.
I do it right, because the other thing about BMA that Jason talks a lot about in the is the customer service. You don't want to roll it out for a week either, because your customers are sensitive to the program and making sure that it works well. So we want to, which brings in education, which brings in, documents and making sure we're trained and that the system doesn't have a ton of bugs. So we want to do it right. Which takes time on that piece. I've done systems where you roll them out with minimal viable product, which is fine for some systems, but they have a lot of bugs and you fix them pretty quick and it works. But that's not gonna work for BMA, so.
Yeah.
Better product.
Craig, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just quickly, out of curiosity, when you talk about RFPs and things, is there a preference over local folks, that vendors that you deal with? I've tipped my toe on this just enough to be extremely dangerous, but I know there's a huge cost difference at times between foreign and domestic sources on this kind of thing. And just curious how, what the setup is to handle that kind of thing. Thanks.
Yes, no, that's a great question. We do have in our RFP a requirement that their business hours are the same as ours, or very close. Because we have, to your point, in the past, when I say we, I don't mean necessarily FWP, but we, as in my experience, had difficulties when the hours were so different with a foreign company where we couldn't connect and get things done. So we do have that in our RFP. We have a cost requirement on how much things cost versus not a cost requirement so much as if somebody's 5 times more expensive than the other guy, that's going to matter on the scoring. We don't have a line in there specifically that says if you're a Montanan or if you're going to get preference points, because we're looking at what the system will actually do more importantly than the location. That may not be a great answer, but what I got.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any final questions?
That's it.
Do you have any questions?
No, I just want to thank you guys. I've said this before, you guys have probably heard it, but my kids don't really think I'm cool until now. When I said I got a job with that WP, all of a sudden I got some street cred with my kids and they think I'm cool. And I have to admit, not that I'm cool, but this job is cool. I did not realize, and I'm from Montana, right? So I know FWP, I know Montana, but I did not realize all the stuff everybody does. And I've been looking up this group recently because I had to talk from you guys to see what you guys do. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of all of this. And if you guys ever need anything, like I said, I'm over those internal functions that grind. And sometimes it takes a long time with government to weed through all of that. That's what I've been hired to do, is help weed through all of that. So if you guys ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. And I just am very grateful to be a part of this process. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate you being here to get us up to date on what's happening and seeing a timeline and your efforts to get us to that timeline. And, we've always talked about how, obviously the app and the technology has to advance, not getting too far behind on the opportunity for access information to come to the user, which is the hunting public. And I think, boy, if we can get there in that timeline, it's just a good thing for the state based on what's happening in the rest of the market out there for access and opportunity.
Yeah, and it's a big piece of who Montana is.
Yeah.
So, and I won't know much more by June because of the RFP timeline, but I'm assuming your next meeting's 3 or 4 months after that. Yeah. So hit me up and hold me accountable. I'll be happy to report back. So.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Fine. Thanks, Michael.
I have another meeting, so I'm going to zip out.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we'll, are we ready to jump over to Powell? Yeah.
Okay,
So who do we have? Or too early for that?
no, I think we're okay. The access managers, if you guys can turn your cameras on if they're not on already. That way we can see who's all here. So we got Region 2, Mason Region 1, Region 4. See Shine. Katie's on. Ian, Davidson on Region 5 is on. Like I said, Travis, I know I've had some other trainings he had to be at today, so he and or Dale and or I can try and collaborate on some of that if there's questions specific to Region 7. So public access land agreements. They're about our 6th year of running through the process, and statutorily PLPW has a responsibility to make a recommendation to the department. We solicit applications from landowners, usually starting around the first part of the year, running through March 15th. Try and keep application timelines consistent so landowners don't have to come back to us 3 or 4 or 5 times trying to do the same thing. So access public lands can run almost year round, but we try to get it wrapped up by March 15th. This public access land agreement, we try to get it, again, deadline March 15th. Unlocking public lands, which is the tax credit we've discussed. That one's also March 15th, and that one's actually set in administrative rule with a deadline of March 15th, which is why we bring all of these, that same process. And then the last one we run is block management access corridors. So there's really APL, UPL, PALA, so access public lands, unlocking public lands, public access land agreements, block management access corridors. I feel like I'm forgetting one, but anyway, all of those we try and run with a, well, those have a different date because we're looking at something different. So this whole premise, right, is that we're either getting access to public land that is either landlocked or legally inaccessible, or we are improving public access or enhancing public access opportunities to public land that is otherwise, we call it under accessible or has no public access point within at least 1 mile from the nearest other access point. And so if you think about a large contiguous block of public land, there may be access on one end. This hopefully can encourage access on the other end. So it kind of does a dual purpose of both legally inaccessible as well as under accessible, we call it. In order to be eligible for a PALA, a landowner must have the lease on the public land, or there must be no public land lease. So those are kind of one of the stipulations with some of this, that you have to have the public land lease if you're providing access to that access point. That doesn't mean you have to have the lease across the entire public land parcel. It just means you have to have the lease where the public is accessing the land at. Because once the public has access to that public land, they have access. So we had the application period open early January, ran it through the middle of March. We did a couple different press releases, one specifically targeted at these access to public lands in mid-January when it came out, and one about 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the close, trying again to emphasize the reminder of the closure. We received 2 new applications out of Region 6, and those are some AP properties. The rest of them were all landowners who expressed either renewals of their current agreements, and some actually expressed extension of their current agreements. So, for example, there's a number that wanted to go from a 3-year to a 10-year or a 5-year to a 10-year agreement. The other thing you'll notice was we had some discrepancies on our contracts from when you guys made your recommendation. The director made her decision to actually putting the contract on the ground, and I'll take credit for that. We had a couple where we put in, they were supposed to be 3-year, we made them 1 year accidentally. or we had 10-year agreements, for example, on the region ones, which are listed out for the length of 10 years, but have just a 1-year date. So what you're seeing basically is there's a couple here with region 3 that they were recommended as 3-year last year. They're approved by the director as 3-year, but we just didn't get the contract signed as a 3-year. If you can imagine, all this is all done manually. I don't want to make excuses, but we just take what you have here and put it on the Word doc and get it sent out. So that fell apart a little bit. That's why you see those couple first ones in region 3. Again, they were approved or recommended as 3-year, but we only got them signed as 3-year. The other ones for region 3 were all renewals with no changes to their existing agreement. So I know Cheyenne reached out to Ed and to Cindy and Donna, and I know Donna had some other follow-up conversations with landowners, but I'll let you guys take it from there on any of the region 3 properties that you wanted to discuss. Maybe you'll go region by region if that works. Yeah, okay.
So you want to start in 3?
Yeah, we can, yeah, no. The ones we had already signed as 10-year agreements just at the wrong date. So I think we're okay there. It's just the region 2 doesn't have any palace, never have so far to date. We're working on trying to piston his arm for that. But then, so region 3 would be the next one where we had a couple, like I said, that were recommended and approved by the director to be 3 years, but we only got them signed as 1-year agreements. So we just want to bring them back because it does change the value a little bit when you go from a 1-year to a 3-year lease.
Okay, so then in 3s, did you want Cheyenne to just present that, or
if you want to talk about them briefly? I don't know, Cheyenne, if you have any thoughts or comments on those couple of projects you had.
Yeah, we just had a couple, as Jason mentioned, that got kind of just mistranslated in the actual drafting of the contract. The 2 main ones were the Ruby Dell, that 640-acre section. That was proposed as a 3-year. It only got sent out as a 1-year. And there was an error in the actual scoring form that was totally my fault. And so it should be the current agreement lists for $1,025 annually or $3,075 over the total lifetime, which again, it is written as a 3-year, but only has 1-year date. So there's kind of just some issues that. And then the amounts that were presented last year were $3,000 annually for $9,000 totaling over 3 years. So I'd just like to get that updated and corrected for that landowner. Does anyone have any questions on that piece?
Thank you, Cheyenne. This is Donna. And when I did talk to the landowner, they mentioned that in the signage which you addressed. So thank you for those updates. And I will, when I visit with them, we're neighbors, so we see each other frequently. I'll tell them that you're on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Donna.
I didn't have anything on that Ruby Dell. Paul. Is that Paul?
Just Cheyenne.
Okay. The only question I had to Cheyenne really was on the 3rd and 4th. So Carey Brothers partnership and then Dunn Canyon, those are combined. And it was only a theoretical ask, and you addressed it, Cheyenne, about how that is so checkerboarded and how it's great access. So that's the first thing is it's the most unique one, I think, in the West, dealing with that kind of a checkerboarded pattern. And that's why we were good with it originally once we determined it did not have actual access. But it just looks to me like it begs for a conflict when you go in and out of the property grid there between sections, and part of that access road literally goes through a little teeny corner of private that's not in the agreement. everything else around it is. You had commented that you haven't had any issues with trespass or any of those conflicts. So that answered my question. And then I thought later, originally our hope was to get all that combined at some point through block or whatever with the two parties. So I don't know if you have any additional comment on that, or it's not a problem. I just still wonder if it's an opportunity.
Yeah, I reached out to enforcement as well, because I hadn't heard any issues, but I reached out to them just to double check, and they also hadn't heard of any issues with that road or anything like that. So just to clarify on that piece as well. In terms of block, I know we've brought it to some of them. I think there's just so many different landowner feuds in that area at this point that unfortunately they're not very interested. There's been a lot of efforts from our regional staff to try and help them make some of those amends, but ultimately it's been pretty tough.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And Cindy was on that group too, so I don't know if Cindy had any additional comment or input.
I just thought that amendment with the Forest Service was odd. Why did that get added?
For the tree cutting, Cindy?
Right.
Because they didn't feel that firewood cutting falls under recreation, as listed in the PALA agreement.
Have they had people cut down trees?
Yeah, they had people that were utilizing the PALA to cut firewood, which ultimately I kind of agree with them. I don't think that's where the funding for this program is coming from, and I don't think that's the intention of the program.
I gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cheyenne.
That's all of Region 3's. The PV ranches are renewal.
Yep.
Do you want to take them all, Region 3? How would you like to go?
Probably we should just do it systematically.
Okay.
So I think through that group that looked at those renewals would recommend that the committee recommend to the director to approve those renewals with the changes noted. So if everybody would just give a thumbs up. Actually, how about this? If you have an objection, please speak it now. Hearing none, then we will recommend those in Region 3 renewals to the director.
Okay. Region 4 had the opportunity to have Evan work with Stephanie and Ed. I don't know if anybody else is in that area, but anyway, there's a few renewals, and then the AP is asking for their PN to go from a 1 year to a 3-year agreement. And so the rest of them are all just 1 year, except for a couple of 5 years that are just, again, they're 5-year contracts from the first cycle that are now expiring and seeking to do renewals on those. No changes on this. It's the only one that's got changes is 8. And that's just to extend the length of the. So I don't know, Stephanie or Ed, if you guys had any.
Yeah, you want to comment, Stephanie?
Yep.
You actually live there.
Evan did a great job answering. I had questions on one of them. He did a great job answering the why behind it, and I think they're all good. So my vote would be to proceed with the Region 4 PALAs.
And then I looked at them also, and again, these have been improved and gone forward and had good success. Some of them are a little older, and some of them are pretty new. So, like Stephanie, I would recommend to the rest of the committee that we recommend these renewals to the director. Any opposition? Seeing none. Region
We're on Region 6. Region 5 didn't have any new renewals up this year, so we'll be on to Region 6, which is the bottom of that page, starting with some of the Downing, Cut Cooley, and then rolling into a number. So Lucky Katie and Lee and Chris all got to have a big throw at themselves with all of these that are either renewals for multi-years that are renewing. Of note, like I said, Whitmire has an existing agreement, at least through next year. They'd like to extend their agreements out. And then as well, looking to go for, I think, a 1 year to a 10-year. And then the two new ones we had were number 32 and number 33, the AP properties. So there's a number of them with Region 6. And I know Katie had followed up with Chris and with Lee. So I don't know how you want to take them number by number, or if you want to take a group of them.
I think we
Maybe
agree.
looking at like
Do all, didn't we? Yeah.
through like 11 through 14 first. Just take those ones first because they're all renewals with no changes, and then we can talk about Whitmire's and their desire to extend. Sure. Okay. So, Lee or Chris or Katie, if you guys had any thoughts on Downings or Brownings 3?
I think we agreed to, I don't remember if Chris was one on the TV or what, but I think we, in the office here, we agreed that all of these looked like they were just renewals and kind of, I think we approved them all. So unless somebody else has a question.
So, and this is on Downing, Browning, Morris, those four.
Yes. So Downing, Cut Cooley, Browning Morris, Browning 44, and 10 Deer Creek are those four that are renewals. They were multi-year agreements. They're just of, I think, probably 2021 or 2020. Now they're up for renewal again. So they've been in place for a number of years. I know the one, we did do they actually use the reimbursement. So a number of them request reimbursement or improvements for reimbursement for gravel or cattle guards. And this landowner was one of them that actually used the reimbursement for some gravel work to improve access. So that's kind of unique. One of our first ones that actually use the improvement fund, even though they requested, they don't get it unless they actually do the work, and then we issue it as a reimbursement. If on those four.
Okay. Any questions or concerns on those four? Okay, here now, go with a recommendation for those four. Okay.
Whitmire. So Whitmire is unique in that it's a grazing association of about 30 different families or so, maybe more. They all have interest in these lands that open up north side and south side of Fort Peck. They've been in the program for quite a while, also do block management. They have a current agreement under PLPW recommendation from a couple of years ago that actually will expire not this year, but next year. They're just looking to extend all of their agreements, I think there's 8 of them. 8 of them up to 10 years. Lee or Kate, if you guys have any comments on those?
Hey, that Whitmire Grazing has been a long time participant in block management. And the lake is the south boundary of most all of it. And so the roads all went to a piece of deeded land that Whitmire's owned because they went down the ridges, and they'd been giving up they just been doing it giving it up as for a block management fee. So this was a way for them to help kind of compensate him for being such a good neighbor for so many years. So that's, I think we should approve it.
Katie, did you have any additional comment?
Nope, I think Lee said it perfectly.
Right, so on Whitmere, those 8 projects, any objections to recommending for them? Seeing none, we'll make that recommendation.
Okay. So the next one is number 23. Cook. Lot data agreement. He's, I think, probably been doing it since the beginning. He's also a cooperator who annually requests the reimbursement. I know he's been buying gates and improving his operation, but also improving access, opportunity, and process. So, all of the reimbursement or the improvement costs are listed just in case they do request it, but most of them haven't, but he is one that has. So that's just it might probably going on for 5 years now. By Blacksville. She's at number 23.
Do you have any concerns on 23?
Well, I move that we approve it. It's been a long-standing one.
Is there a reason he does 1 year rather than just consecutive? Yeah, that's Katie. Katie, did you hear Alice's question?
No, I didn't.
Is there a reason he just does 1 year terms rather than, a 3 year or a 5 year? No, is there a specific reason he likes the 1 years?
Not that I know of. I mean, I just call him every year and ask if he's still interested. So he says yes.
Yeah, just given how long he's been, that's what. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good point to see if he has that interest to do it on that 3 or 5, whatever makes sense. Maybe in the future. Not to disrupt it. Okay, so we're good with Cook number 23.
Okay. 24 Brewers. So this one's been around a couple years. They do have some access. This route does improve access. Like I mentioned before, it's for inaccessible or under accessible. The landowner is seeking a 10-year agreement. And I know Chris had some thoughts or comments about it, so I'll leave it to Lee or Chris first.
Okay, obviously I'm familiar with this area, and one is I want to make sure that with some people with the PALA and the block management, questions are always and what I see is I look at good block management areas and good PALA areas and not so good ones, and we pay these landowners and some for really good stuff, and some people get paid really good money for some really bad stuff, land, and that's fine, but I don't understand why we would pay a landowner money for access to public land that the public already has access to. And Katie told me that, and I didn't know this, that there is part of the PALA that gives you better access, but I don't understand with this being using taxpayer dollars, whatever, what are we paying, 14,000 a year, whatever, to get better access to this public land, and it's not really that much better. I mean, it's not a lot of land. It's 14,000 acres of BLM, but I just don't understand the use of the money to pay a landowner for access to something that people already have really good access to. And is he not in block management?
In block.
What's that?
I've asked the region, I'm not sure. Katie, are burgers and block?
So currently, no, but they're looking to do an application this year.
But then he'll be paid block management and pallet?
Yep.
Why would you get paid both? Why do we pay people for block management and pallet when we already have with block management, you already have access to that public land? That's double dipping. It doesn't make sense to me.
I'll give you the short of it, Chris, and then Lex can give you the long of it. So both these programs are prescribed by the legislature for different purposes. And so PALA in itself can absolutely be combined or in addition to a block management program. It's clearly stated in the codes, and its design originally was to open up, again, inaccessible or under accessible public lands, not private. So the differentiation is block is opening private lands to hunting access. PALAs are opening public land access. That's kind of the genesis of it when it was created, as Jason said, about might have been 9 years ago and 7 years ago it was implemented. I don't remember exactly.
The 19th session.
But it was created by the legislation specifically to do that.
Yeah, and Chris, I'll just kind of echo off of what Chair Beal said. So specifically with BMAs, unless the landowner prescribes access beyond that, beyond their fence to the public land, you are not able to access that public land. It'd be considered a trespass beyond onto the public land. And so because of that, the PALA was created.
So in theory, yeah, you're talking about stacking it. That's where your concern comes from.
Yeah.
This is a
But back to this, okay, and I understand. Thank you for that. I mean, I didn't know that. But back to this, they already have access to this public land without the landowner, and it's not. It's. I guess from a business standpoint, I have concerns of spending money on better things than paying for the little bit of block management they may do and for the PALA. I'm comparing it to another ranch close to us has 75,000 acres in block management. This landowner's going to make as much money as that landowner, and he's just in block management. So because the PALA doesn't really come into effect with that ranch, surprisingly, because there's not that much public land. I just can't imagine paying money when the public already has access to this public land. It's just I know we're going to prove it, but I want to make my point, and I want to make sure that the world knows that this is not the way I would spend money. And it's no disrespect to anybody. I'm just shocked that of all these agreements look through this one just, and I'm close to it land-wise, and it doesn't matter. I just don't understand. They already have access to it. It's just shocking that we would spend that kind of money from my standpoint as a business person looking at how I would run a business and how I would spend money. And this in my business plan, I would not spend that money because the public already has access to it. So just wanted to make sure the world knows that I oppose this simply because we're spending money on access to public land that the public already has access to, and it's good access, and using this landowner to get a little bit better access is not that much better access. So
additional comments from 6 folks?
Yeah, I think we can't go back. I agree with what Chris's concerns are, but we can't go micromanage every one of these things. We've got to let our regional people do it, or else we'll be we'll be out there checking every one of them. And the intent of the legislature was to accomplish what we're doing. And so I think I move that we adopt this and put it in for, I don't know how many years, that's up to these guys, how many years we do it and see what happens going forward. So it was beneficial for Whitmire grazing out here because their deeded roads all blocked access to the Charlie Russell game range. And they allowed that for the Breaks elk herd for years and years and years. And so maybe this, I'm not familiar enough with this one to know exactly what's going on, but you can't change the intent of the law, like Jason and Alex said, but you gotta follow the rules as they're written. So.
Stephanie has her hand up. That's okay.
Stephanie?
I completely agree with the double dipping and how this, kind of gets messy and whatnot. I think the problem is right now it's not double dipping because they don't have a block approved. And so I think maybe that's something we need to explore is this something where the timelines need to come together more, where we're approving Palas and block at the same time so we can sort through some of these issues, or do we just proceed, with Palas and blocks? Again, we don't have a block approved on him, so technically we're not double dipping. So
Additional comments?
So it'd be helpful if we pulled the map up, or do you guys, or what are you familiar enough with?
Do you guys want to look at the map? I know those of you
Yeah.
that were on that
I would.
did.
Like to look at the map.
Okay.
And, Stephanie has her hand up, or Donna has her hand up.
Okay. So we'll pull up the map
Okay.
and then Donna.
No, I think it's important that we look at all these individually. And, I agree with Chris. If, our job here is to bring up those concerns. And when we bring them up, I would assume or think that the management for FWP would look into those concerns. So I kind of look at everything as an individual piece of property. I don't look at it as this one did it, so this one should be able to do it. I think each one deserves their own individual look at, pros and cons, because if we start putting everything under one slate, that I don't feel I'm doing my job.
Sounds good. So can everybody see that property map and the lay of the land there? So within the guidelines of the PALA, what's the 1.5 miles?
It is by rule 1 mile or shorter distance as deemed by the department. We used to have it at 2 miles. And then we thought that was prohibiting some decent projects. So we revised the rules in 24 to be less than that. Just as a clarifying statement, the concept of block management and doing a PALA, it's silent in the law. So the only thing you can't do with a PALA is an unlocking public lands or a DNRC MT plan, public lands access network agreement. So those two, unlocking public lands and DNRC's program, are incompatible with PALA. When it was going through in 19, this was a discussion of, can you do both? And they actually had the language to do, you can't do block and a PALA together, but they struck the language out in the committee to take block out of it to allow for block and PALAs to be simultaneous. And then that goes back to the original conversation about the private property rights and when does somebody's access end versus crossing the fence to the public land. But in terms of your question right now, it's got to be at least 1 mile from the nearest access point or less than that if it's deemed beneficial, basically. Go ahead, Craig, and then Steph.
Yeah, thank you. So is this a highly unique situation, Jason, or can you give us an idea of statewide how often this might be an issue? Thanks.
As far as the block and Pala working or not working together,
Yes, thank you.
a number of them have both, where the block management land is opening the private, and then the Pala enhances access to the public land.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Might have dropped
Oh,
train.
sorry. I was on mute. So on this particular one, so that it says it's a trail, public land, then private land. I know there's an access point. I've got Onyx pulled up. I know there's an access point I think Rocky Mountain Elk purchased to do a trail through there, but it doesn't go all the, well, I mean, it technically goes all the way down to the parking area. But this trail, is this a private road slash trail that people can drive on that they're giving access, so it gives that much more motorized versus walking on the trailhead all the way down to where that parking area is?
Katie, can you address that?
Yeah, so this trail, so do you see where my cursor is on the screen?
On the state
That's
land
where
there
the-
in 25 north, 17 east.
Yep, I do.
Yeah, that's where the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation has their parking area, right where the BLM land meets the state. And there's not a road going through the state land, but this the private property trail that's on this map is drivable, and it's a very well driven trail. So it's a good trail to get down to the parking area on this map.
But it is not, that road is not already a public road, correct? Like not a county
No.
road or anything like that. So it is a private
No.
road that they're giving access down to this
No, that's
area.
that's not true. That's to that parking area is public.
I think they're confused. So where Katie's
That's a
cursor
public road.
is. So Chris, which road's a public road?
Down to that parking area.
Where the P is?
No, I'm sorry, where the curse, isn't there, who's got the state land, state land. That's
Right.
the,
I'm asking about the purple and black dashed line, and then I know that there's a public road down to the cursor.
Yep.
That Rocky Mountain Elk did.
Yep.
I'm asking about the dashed line and then the orange dashed line. Is that a private road? It is not accessible. Like I can't just drive down it now without this pallet, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
to which one? To the P?
To the P, correct. The
Yeah,
dashed
but you can
lines.
drive-
I'm talking
you
about
can-
just the dash lines.
Yeah,
Well,
but you-
the Pala, the dash lines.
Yeah, but you can drive to that cursor
Right.
or whatever
Okay.
that thing
Yep.
is.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paul. Paul, you're on mute.
Chris, I wanted to know what Chris was talking about when he says that we've got access in there already. Can you explain that, Chris, please?
Just, yeah, you can drive to that cursor by the state land, the 25 north, 17 east state land. You can drive right to that and you can walk right down into that public land through the state land and into the BLM.
So what part of this, is any of this block management now?
No,
No, it's not, Chris?
no.
Comment, Paul?
I just wanted to be clear on what Chris was talking about.
We don't have to have a big debate about this. I know we're going to approve this. I just wanted to make aware that I think for whatever we're paying him over the next 10 years, $150,000, $160,000 for that access is just a waste of money because it's a little bit better access to that land with the P parking area. But it's, I'm just, I just need to make sure that the world knows that this to me,
So-
there's already access to it. We don't need this landowner. And it's not like we're walking through the Bob Marshall Wilderness here. So
So Chris, I really appreciate your concern and comments. Actually, when we looked at this in the beginning, that was the reality of questioning all these access points and how close they may or may not be. And that's why the rule is set how it is. And clearly it would vary in this unit versus a Western Montana unit. But if I want to throw two things at you, devil's advocate, if I want to hunt that very southeast or very southwest corner, this does give me better access. Now, if I just want to park at the P and walk north a mile, it doesn't. And that's kind of the challenge in the point of access. And there are a number of these that you'll find through the, however many there are, total agreements. 70 of them. There's a few of these that are close like that, and all the circumstances vary. And unfortunately, we as a council have grasped and grappled with that over this time. And in great part because the law does open it to both. So what I would propose to you is that, and I think you bringing it up, as a newer council member, I think we should consider putting on our schedule of objectives to review again side-by-side PALA and block collisions, because we've talked about it in the past and refined a few things. And now that we're 7 years down the road with looking at these, the things that you don't consider in the beginning now appear. So if it's all right with you, I would suggest that we put that on our agenda to have a deeper dive into just the relationship with PALA and block again, now that we're at this point in the program's existence, if you will. And I would comment on the end of that, if that's good with you, Chris, that one thing that we were concerned about in the beginning is that landowners would, after participating in a PALA, would say, heck, I'll just do a PALA instead of block. I'm getting paid for a PALA and they're not even on my land. That was great concern of the council in the beginning. And actually what we found throughout this time is a number of folks who were not in block, but then did a PALA and experienced that public pressure that they did not have previously. Then they signed up for a block. So I think the council was surprisingly, well, we saw that the reward was greater than the risk, which was concerned again in the beginning as we lose the block. And as you look through these codes for block, PALA, UPL, all 11, 12, however many programs there are, you will see a lot of these collisions, if you will, and seeming double dipping, whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately or fortunately, that's how they're laid out in Montana state law. And whether we address that or not is a question before us. But they've all been applied from different angles for specific needs throughout the course of these access programs. I mean, that's a lengthy wrap up for you about where all this sits. Because really, we've looked at each one of these ways. And to Donna's point, I do not want us to get to where we're rubber stamping a whole slate of these. Especially now that we are at this point in this program, PALA, existence. I think it does probably deserve another review by the council to address these specific issues as they have appeared. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to, I didn't mean to take this much time on it. I just look at, what's that? I just
You
look
should
at,
not.
I just look at,
That's the point.
Do not apologize for that because that's
No,
the
I-
reason you're sitting there.
I just trying to look at better utilizing money. I just don't want us to have a pool. I just, in my mindset, we have a pool of money and I just like, well, let's just spend it. And I say spend it on good stuff. You know, find good, better lands to go after. People already have access to this, but no, I appreciate it and we need to move on. I don't want to take up everybody's time on this point. I just wanted to make a point. So thank you.
I'm going to throw one more thing back at you. You could suggest that we not go to a 10-year.
I was gonna ask.
You could just simply, they've been on a 1-year. You could knock that down back to 1 year as our recommendation as we move forward with this. So there you go.
Chair, if I may. Chris, the chair's point, that was a good point, and the only reason I was gonna make that same, point was due to the fact that Katie mentioned that there's a potential that they may enroll in block, and so you might want to take a look at it in another year or maybe 3 years or something to that extent, rather than you being locked into a 10-year agreement and then they enter blocks next year and you can't do anything about it and they're getting paid on both ends.
Just remember too, in your fear of losing landowners, if he got mad and pulled out of Pala, what would you lose? A little better access, but you don't lose access. Just remember that.
We'll go Paul and then Dale.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was saying. How long a term are we gonna do this for? I would suggest we maybe do it for a year and then take another look at it next year or during the year anyway. That was my suggestion.
Thanks, Paul.
Dale?
We had a pretty robust discussion about this same Pala a few years ago, and the discussion of the RMEF trail, I remember that discussion, but if my memory serves me correctly, one of the big discussion points was between the parking area for the RMEF and the parking area that's on the map now, is that this country is so rugged that, Chris and Paul are correct. Yeah, you do have access, but boy, to walk from the RMEF parking area down to the area south of where the Pala parking area is, I mean, you'd have to be Iron Man type people to get there. And I think we need to take that into account. Yes, there is access. But let's not forget that not everybody is 22 years old. There's people like me that are north of 70 now. And I know for me that to park at the RMEF area and walk all the way south of where the Pala parking area is, that'd be a non-starter for me and probably for a lot of other people. Thank you.
Stephanie.
I guess I'm in the same boat. I'm very familiar with this area. That is such rugged country. I mean, I know I'm pretty hardcore hunter and I could not walk between that cursor and that parking lot area. There's great sheep hunting down in there, mule deer, elk. I don't know. I guess I have a hard time going down from the person requesting 10 years down to just 1. I think if we're going to reduce it, I'd like to see a little bit more coming in the middle. So we're not completely, completely pushing this away because I do think that this access does have value in this area.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Cindy.
Um, I'm with Stephanie, but my question really is, when you go onto Palace, I think there are some that are sign-ins. So will it be incorporated into the software for block management or the software they're developing as a part of the new FWP software?
Yeah, we talked about expanding beyond just block management for the use of our technology related to access. And then for Palos, to your first point, we don't require any type of public sign-in, primarily because of the administrative costs that we had to set this up. It's just basically signs, and if you're using the route, you're good to go. You don't need to get otherwise permission. You may want to hunt the private if you're going through there, but in reality, if you're just going to the public, you don't need to get permission.
Thank you.
So if there's no further comments, so we have kind of two proposals here. Three, we can recommend the 10-year, we could recommend a 3-year, or we could recommend a 1-year or 5 or 30. Who wants to throw one as the majority?
Hey, can we ask Katie what she thinks? I think we ought to ask her. She was the one that went down and talked to the guy. What do you think would be appropriate, Katie? 3, 5, 2?
Well, yeah, he was asking for 10. So, I mean, I think a 5-year would be, I think he would be pretty happy with that.
Let's just split it in the middle and do 5 and move on.
So Chris, just threw out a 5-year. So does anybody have objection to recommending a 5-year? If you do, please speak up.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I'd go 3. I mean, with the discussion that this has generated, I think I feel more comfortable doing 3. And if they end up, going into a block management agreement, which it sounds like that may be in the works, some of this discussion may lead toward a different outlook on what that agreement might look like. So, yeah.
Okay. Great.
Oh, one question. I'm sorry, what happened? And I don't know this. What happens if they sell the land next year? Is this agreement doesn't extend or?
Right. Yeah, it's just void. So it doesn't carry to the new owner unless the new owner wants it. So we would just,
okay.
And if it was recommended as a 10-year and the director agreed 10 years sounds great and they sell next year or 6 months from now, we'd just yank the agreement and be over.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, if you look on the last page, Chris, number 43, there's one of those noted in a 10-year. Yeah, on the next set of documents, but okay, so before us, should we go?
Paul has a comment and then Stephanie.
Okay, Paul.
I was just gonna second Craig's proposal.
Okay, Stephanie.
I'm with Katie. I think I trust the staff member on this, and I think 5 is more reasonable. And a little bit more compromise. The landowner will be happy with it. I think again, when you look at $160,000 for the total cost of the project over 10 years, yeah, that seems like a lot. But gosh, when you've got some access to sheep hunting down in there and the amount people pay to sheep hunt, I really don't think, $15,000 a year is really that big of a something we should turn our nose at.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna do a roll call and you give me a 3 or a 5. Okay. So I'm gonna start with Lee. A 3 or a 5, Lee.
I think we gotta go with 5 because that's half of what the other person did, and maybe we can get away with it. Thanks.
Okay. And Stephanie?
I'm a 5.
Okay, Rich?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. 5 years.
Okay, Craig?
3, thanks.
Okay, Chris?
It does. This land may not even be there in the next 5 years, so I'll just do 5 because he's already sold off a bunch of his place. So, and I know a little bit more about this than I'm even able to discuss. So, I mean, I think the access is going to end up back up at the top. So let's just do 5.
Hey, is Drew on?
I don't
Dale.
believe so.
3 or 5?
Go ahead, Dale.
5.
Paul?
5's good.
Cindy?
5.
Donna?
5.
Dave?
Being a new kid on the block, I can go along with 5.
So 5's have it. All right, so we'll put forward a recommendation for a 5-year on the Brewer number 24 project. Okay. All right, so we're kind of ahead of the game. I think we'll take a little break because we're going to come back to this. So we'll take a 15-minute break and then come back to Pella. But again, I appreciate the discussion. That's why we're here. Probably everybody's having it in their brain anyway, as we've gone through these. So it's all good. This is what we need to be doing. Okay. It's not automatic. Let's not let it be automatic. All right, we'll take a break and come right back. Thank you. Good. All back. You want to take agreement for over 25 through 31, which would basically be all renewals. 6 folks are good with that. We're talking about the 2 new AP properties. So that would be back to Katie. Yeah, Katie and Chris and Lee, you guys are with us there, looks like. Looking at Golden Organic, Campbell's, Kirkland Dryer, Soul Creek, Murphy North, Murphy South, and Twitchell's. So again, agreement 25 through 31. Yeah. Any discussion there? All 1-year agreements, all renewals, no changes.
Let's approve them.
Chris? Any further discussion on those, Chris? Was it all?
Not me. No.
Okay. All right. So again, agreements 25 through 31 previously reviewed by Lee and Chris. So if no objection, we'll recommend those. Objections? So we're good on 25 through 31. And then we'll jump on to 32, which are new.
Yep, 32 and 33. Katie, I don't know if you have those maps built, or at least could show a map of where they're at and what you plan to do with those 2. Would that be possible? Awesome. And then you can walk the group through them too as you get there.
Oh, went away. Have they got, can I ask a question, or are the AP ranches in block management?
So the north side will not be on block management, but south of Cow Island Road on the Bullwhacker Road will be in block management this year.
Thanks.
Katie, can you walk us through?
Yeah, so this one is we're gonna call it the AP Anchor Ranch Palace. So these are actually gonna be two trails to get you into either side of a section of state land. The road coming in from the west is on a 2-track and it gets you right to the state land. The one coming in off of Cow Island Road on the south, you gotta bushwhack a little bit and then you hit a 2-track road that you follow up to the state land. They're going to be open during the hunting season, and you will be able to hike, ride horse, or bike on this trail, but not e-bikes. E-bikes are going to be considered motorized for the purpose of this project. So.
Any questions on the Anchor Ranch project? Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, how much are we paying? For whatever reason, I don't have those listed dollars, and I'm just wondering what we're paying for this access into a section of state land.
It's just a flat rate agreement, Dale, so $1,050 for 1 year.
Thank you.
I will send you
So, Katie, can you not access this anyway at this point in time?
No, this property is inaccessible.
So how do you determine the value of it as a hunting opportunity?
So this one it's a flat rate payment since it gets you into 640 acres of state land. So it's the flat rate payment.
Yeah. I'm just curious about what the hunting opportunity truly is right there.
So it's really good. It's deer and elk habitat. I think people will utilize this. Those guys that are, gung-ho to get out and walk, I think they'll utilize these trails for this hunting season.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, so this is a brand new Pala app, 1 year, and it's on the flat rate for one section of $1,050. If anybody has an objection, please say so.
Paul has his hand up.
Paul?
I don't have an objection. I just would have a clarification. It says neighboring block management area. I don't swear on my
Cowans.
map here. It's not very,
Cowans.
huh?
Cowans.
Is it surrounded by block
Anchorage
management
Ranch.
or?
No.
I just don't
So-
see it. I don't know what, it's not very clear on my map. I don't know what area.
Katie,
that
can
that
you
gray
describe the block, where the block is that Paul's asking about?
Yeah, so that upper left-hand corner gets you into Cowan's Beebinger Ranch BMA. So it just shows up on the map in this extent.
But you can't access this through that block, right?
No,
Is this state section surrounded by block management?
no.
Okay. That do it, Paul?
Yeah, that's fine. My map isn't very clear here. I can't see the little gray lines very well.
Okay. Craig?
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question maybe to the block management agency folks. So I see on the Pella applications, they can check the box with how long they may wish to have these agreements. How often as an agency and maybe as this committee have you changed that? So last time we were talking about a landowner that wanted, asked for 10, we went to 5. This one is 1. Is that based more on an agency committee decision, or is that honoring kind of what the landowner is wanting to do? Thanks.
So I can answer that one.
Yep.
I can answer that one for you, Craig. So this is what the landowner wanted, just to see how this pala would work out there and if this pala would work for them. So they just requested a 1 year for this agreement just to start out.
Thank you. And so maybe a follow-up, if you don't mind. How often have we changed what their preference is on any of these palas? Any landowner?
So
We have,
if
go ahead, Katie. Go ahead, Katie.
memory serves me correctly, we have lessened the number of years through this council, but we've never increased the number of years of an agreement in this council.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
The only comment I'd add to that, Craig, in the regional reviews we have, before they've been officially presented, when those crop up, or it appears that maybe we should request more, we have made that comment in that review regionally to that access coordinator to see if that's a good thing or feasible.
Super. Appreciate it.
Yes, I guess my question is, because one of our number one complaints by the landowners is trespassing, where this requires at least 2 to 3 miles hiking to get into that piece of property. And it's very, if you look at the big picture, it's wonderful they gave that, but it's kind of a small area that almost promotes some way unintentional trespassing, or to have people hike through there that far and not be able to harvest anything. And we all see how some people think that nobody's back here. I think I can get something there. I mean, it just looks like, it's great that somebody's willing to do this, but it almost looks like an area that we can't patrol. And it could cause issues without some kind of hunting between point A and point B.
Katie, did you have any comments or thoughts on that? And can you also confirm it's walk-in only versus motorized?
Yeah, so this one will be walking only, walking, horseback, or bike riding. The landowner did request those routes, and they will have employees on site. So their employees will check, and then our staff will also have eyes on it every once in a while. So hopefully we help with the trespass issues doing that.
Dave.
I was just wondering if this is walk-in only for both of these ways to get to that state section. I don't think anybody's going to go in there to hunt elk and then have to pack it back out 2 miles or 2.5 miles. I question the how much good it's going to be.
Paul, did you have another comment? Your hand's still raised on the board.
I have a question.
I just said Chris. I'll go Stephanie and then we'll go Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of for Katie. Again, I'm pretty familiar with this area. I think actually hiking in that 2 miles to get an elk is actually pretty feasible with the terrain of this area. Is this landowner, have you had any talks about them doing a more access like block management, type 2, type 1 kind of deal eventually on this piece?
So since, well, it's American Prairie property, that's who bought the Anchor Ranch, but like for this year, they wanted to just see how it goes with having a Pala on this. And I think they're going to manage hunting differently on the north side of Cow Island Road versus the south side. So we have been visiting with them about these properties, and we'll continue to do so.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Oh, sorry, Chris first. I start. Yep, Chris Faber. Go ahead, Chris.
That was really my question to Katie. I'm just surprised at the APR with how they talk about access and things like that, why they didn't put all this into block management. I'm just surprised. So are they going to allow any kind of access into that private land for any other for hunting? Did you, I mean, that you can't probably might not be able to answer that question, but are they not allowing any hunting in there?
I think they will be allowing some hunting. It will just go through their systems instead of being enrolled in block management at this point.
That's interesting. Okay. Thanks. It's confusing.
You're up.
Did you say me?
Yep.
Okay. As I look at the map, I see where the trail goes across the river 1, 2, 3 times on the one side and once on the other. Is there means for them to cross that waterway?
Donna?
Yeah.
There's no, that map it's dry.
Yeah, that whole area is pretty dry, especially.
It looks like I'm sorry, it looks like a river, but it's dry. There's not much for water in there at all.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess my second part, do you feel there's any way we could get additional block management in order to get to that state land? I mean, this looks like a wonderful piece of property, but if we could try to get some kind of hunting on the way to the property, the state land piece, I would try to pursue that.
It's completely, Donna, it's completely surrounded by APR. APR owns all the way around that. So they would have to do the block management. Also, they do with some of their other properties. Probably what they're looking at is my guess. Katie, you can probably confer with this, but they do like drawings and stuff like that where you can actually go on their website and do drawings, and then they limit the number of people, probably because this is kind of premier access. So they kind of control more of it, kind of more like a drawing through their website and staff.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie.
Stephanie, did you have other comments, or are you going to raise your minute?
Nope, that's all. I just wanted to say that it's completely surrounded by the APR and how they do some of their other hunting opportunities. Like I think they have what's called like Blue Ridge or something like that, and you can go online, and if you draw, I don't know what permit it is, some district, and they, you can put in for that drawing, and then you get kind of exclusive, kind of better access than even like block management type 2.
Okay, so that is number 32. Again, it's a one section access, $1,000 and $1,050 for the 1-year contract. If anybody has an objection, please let me know audibly. Hearing none, committee will recommend approval on AP Anchor Ranch. Then we'll move to 33, which is AP Bullwhacker. Katie, would you talk through that one?
Yep, so just an overview of this. This will be on the Bullwhacker Road. Those that are familiar need no explanation, but few years back, the Bullwhacker Road was closed to the public. It went through the entire court process to see if the Bullwhacker Road was indeed a county road or a public road. It was determined that Bullwhacker was not a public road. And then American Prairie acquired this property last year, and there's been a few articles on it that they are now going to allow access out there. So they're looking to do a 3-year PALA. It'll be year-round access and driving access all the way through the private property.
Is it a good road, Katie?
Yeah. And it is a good road.
Where they stopped it before up there on where that chunk of deeded went through there, they stopped the, that was where the guy in the camper was. Right?
Yep.
Stephanie.
I might kind of have two points with this. One is there any discussion of them putting this piece of private into block management? And then the second part is there any way they would consider extending this 3 years? I actually kind of wish they would have gone a little bit more committal on keeping this road open. So I don't know if that was part of the discussion.
So they are interested in block management for this year. So it came up with a 3-year, let's see, it went through like the American Prairie executives and all their access staff, and they came up with doing a 3-year for now with the intent of maybe extending into the future.
Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it. Sorry you're getting all the questions.
Oh, it's all right.
Go ahead, Neil.
Katie, question for you. That's gonna sound contradictory from what I normally say, but I appreciate the year-round access for these parcels, but with the world-class sheep herd and other wintering wildlife, was there thought in there about limiting some of the winter access into some of those areas? And I'm not proposing that because I don't even know if it's needed, but I'm just wondering if that was something that the people in Region 6 have discussed. Thank you.
Yep, yeah, and we did discuss that a little bit. So there is a travel management plan on the BLM roads, and just making sure that the public is aware of that, because some of their roads are closed seasonally, which will help, protect those herds a bit.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Katie, can you elaborate on this agreement lists total public acres open to 50,000 acres? How does that lay in regards to this map that's on the screen? Is this in the middle of this access point, or how's that get you there? Is that the whole picture?
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole picture.
Okay.
So it's looking at what the BLM leased acres. And that's where we kind of came up with that number.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, just like the previous screen, this is only access through the road to the public land. There's no public access whatsoever on the deeded land that the trail goes through. I just want to clarify that. That's correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
For now, they may consider opening it through block, it sounds like.
That's all I had.
Okay. So no further discussion. If anyone has an objection, please speak it. Hearing none, recommend safety bullwhacker for a 3-year
Region 7's a little bit, like I said, a little bit different in that Travis wasn't able to join us, but everything for Region 7 is all renewals. We had one landowner who was in and dropped out and came back again, same with renewals. I believe Travis met with Dave and Paul, or Dave and Dale and Paul. At least has had discussions with you guys about them. Dale, I guess put you on the spot if you had any thoughts or comments related to these Region 7 ones.
I'm familiar with all of these. The McCurlick is the property that was in 2024. They were out last year and they're getting back in. They're also considering going into block management from what I understand. This is up on where Dry Creek dumps into Fort Peck Reservoir. Very good deer, antelope country. And the access roads really make this parcel much more accessible. Rob Rukoff has been in for several years. His is a renewal, but I also believe that he is going from 3 to 5 years. The Hoffman Ranch, I think, is simply a renewal. Same with Harbaugh's. Harbaugh's is up in Garfield County and very good antelope, mule deer, sage grouse country. The Ayers is in southeastern Prairie and extends into Fallon County. And as I understand, I'm very familiar with this parcel as well. I understand there's going to be more roads that go across private land. They're going to be open. In addition to that, it's my understanding that Ayers is going to enter into block management. The Ayers property is kind of in a triangle between Glendive, Miles City, and Baker. Pretty good wildlife habitat. Just it gets a lot of traffic in that area. There's a lot of public land, but because of the private lands that's intermingled in it, you legally can't just access legally all of the BLM by vehicle. I think most of it's accessible if you wanted to walk, but it's a quality piece of property. Again, all of these we've looked at in the past, and again, some minor changes to some of them. I have no issues with any of them.
Dave, I think Travis, I talked to you. Has any?
I'm not real familiar with any of them, but I don't have a problem. I can't see anything wrong.
Paul, you have a comment? No. Okay. Any additional questions? Okay, so we're looking at Region 7, so PALA agreements 34 through 38. Any objections, please let us know verbally. Seeing none, we will recommend those to the director.
And that wraps up our list for this year, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So going back to the earlier discussion in specific towards Chris's comments and all, again, with 7 years of implementation of this program, we will put in our agenda a hard look again at PALA, and particularly relationship with block. So side by side there, there may be one other program that we look at within that hasn't been implemented at this point in time, just to have the discussion about it. Chris, do you have any further question or input into that matter?
No, I I apologize to Dale and Stephanie. I'm not, as far as access, I mean, I know it's rough country and I didn't mean that everybody should be able to access all that property easily. It's just, I was looking at it from a financial standpoint, but it does, it does, the parking place on that property does give better access and so no disrespect there to people that aren't, Iron Men anymore. So anyway, just didn't mean any disrespect for, in that situation. So
We know it's coming soon for you.
oh, it's here.
The Iron Man thing.
I don't mind. I don't mind driving around in the truck a little bit once in a while with the heater on.
It's hard when you're looking at the walk and you go, I did that last year. And then you go, should I this year?
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. Thank you, Chris. Dale, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, your discussion just a minute ago saying, well, we will circulate back and talk about block management and PALA. I guess my concern with that is that, and again, just from the history of our organization, there's several of us that have expressed concerns over the years of, we have a person that's enrolled in block management and then they put in for PALA and is the public really getting any additional benefits? And I think we all share a concern that direction, but the legislation is pretty straightforward that our hands are somewhat tied. And I guess my point to that is, if this is going to be a discussion point and we want to make a recommendation to our legislature before the 2027 session, is this something that we need to put on an agenda for one of our next upcoming meetings, as opposed to maybe later in the year where maybe there won't be enough time? If it were the decision of this group to make a recommendation to the department to make changes, that it would have time to make its way into the legislature. I know I kind of rambled there. Thank you.
No, Dale, that's a great point and question. I sort of recognize the risk of all of it. But the fact is, we've come this far and we've had these discussions. I think we have half a committee that's pretty new. And so to revisit the origination and the parameters that have surrounded particularly PALA, I think it's worth that discussion. If that leads to a legislative request or need, clearly in regards to the 27 session, we'd have to have that identified by really July, I think. And we're going to do some other program statistical review, or at least look at the review of the numbers here shortly. So some of that will come into view there too, I think. I appreciate your comments and concerns about it. And I think it could be really interesting to talk about those a little bit and gain new outside look, since half of us were in on the beginning and the creation of how this might run. And then there is one other program that hasn't been implemented that parallels it and potentially crashes into both block and PALA, that has to be addressed by the department at some point. So I appreciate your comments, Dale, and that, you're very deliberate in it, and I think we need to take it that way on down the road too. So whether we can get something for 27, if it's identified, that might not be, but it's possible if we have a brilliant stroke of discussion and idea. So I'll just leave it at that. Any other comments in regards to PALA? Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Quick one maybe for Jason. And kind of my discussions with some landowners and agency folks with these PALA agreements, Jason. Couple of the comments, and just help me if I misunderstood what they were trying to tell me, is that the process for these is somewhat different, maybe a little more laborious than some of the other programs that we're dealing with. And that came up possibly as a barrier to some of these things. And I'm offering that up as things I'm hearing that I know you've heard 100,000 times, but if we are looking at automation or trying to streamline these things, if that's, I guess I'm just going to ask you, do you see that as kind of a barrier to this program being more, I guess, more effective? And I'll just leave it at that, Jason.
Say that we're just following the law, right? So there's a PLPW review requirement. The public land agencies certainly want to know who's accessing the property when. The leaseholders are required to be the applicants, or if there is no lease by law. So we're doing what we're required to do by law. It does add some steps in process compared to just a regular block management agreement, for example. But I think where we're mostly constrained is willing landowners, and that could be applying across any of the programs. So we have a number of sites. We just gotta keep trying to identify those that meet those legislative requirements. So there are some extra steps for PALA specifically, but I guess I would say that's not our biggest hang up. It's really willing landowners.
Okay, and thank you. And I didn't interpret that to be a judgment on how you're handling it, Jason. I understand totally you're following and never questioned that in any way. So but thanks for your answer.
Other questions? Comment?
So just following the line of thinking with Dale's comment, I know we have an agenda topic coming up for this meeting yet to discuss recommendations, but that's really the focal point of where I see this committee going and finalizing all of the topic areas we discussed. So whether it be the hunter access and fishing access programs, whether it be landowner preference, whether it be technology, hunter education, all of those kind of culminate, I would hopefully expect at this June meeting to lead into those process timelines if there are steps that need to be taken, especially legislatively, to modify in the next session. But overall, that's really the start of, okay, we've covered all of these topic areas. Now let's start to focus in on recommendations as it relates to all of those topic areas. We did a little bit of that with the hunting access programs and private land fishing, but we haven't come back to landowner preference or hunter ed. And I know today new it was technology. So there's a lot of, we've now through this meeting, we will have covered all of your work plan topics. Now it's taking all of those topics and putting them into cohesive recommendations. And that's the focus of future meetings. But that's kind of just want to make sure we didn't lose those topic areas or other folks' thoughts and comments to dive deeper into some of those subject matters.
Thanks for that wrap up clarification. Okay, so we want to just jump into program stats. So this will give you a good view of where the programs stand. Jason will lead us through that with all access. Okay. So hopefully folks can see my screen. This is going to be a lot of information coming at you really fast, some of which you've already seen or know about, some of which is literally hot off the presses and ready to go before the commission at their June meeting. But I wanted to give an update. We always kind of give a chance to do a status update of where we're at programmatically. Again, because most of our work, probably 85 to 90% of our work focuses on block management. That's primarily where we'll focus. And then same with the other access opportunities that exist. And I do have one slide for private land fishing, although it's going to be very minimal to my presentation. Certainly, if you have a question, I think we have time.
I know we only budgeted a half hour for this topic, but I know at Upland Gamebird, I gave a similar presentation. It took the full hour. So if you have questions, go ahead and either raise your hand or try and ask those as we go. So of course, I have to give a nod to our hunter access staff, most of which you heard from today. This isn't exclusive of our other department staff that make these all functional. We had Michael here today, we've had Jess, we've had licensing, all of these other pieces of the agency really make this operate. But I do have to give a nod to these folks. They work extremely hard. They've got amazing staff. And we did some regions kind of tracked hunter landowner contacts on an annual basis. And it was surprising when I averaged that across all 7 regions. Our program is having at least 35,000 hunter and landowner contacts on an annual basis. So they are an amazing crew, and I got to give them a big shout out for all the work that they do to pull these programs off. It's no surprise, stolen from Onyx's report, Montana leads the nation on private land access. We are more than double any other state in terms of private land access opportunities that exist. So I stole these graphs right from that report. If you guys want links to that report, feel free. I can get that to you. As discussed last year in May in Great Falls, we wanted to just show you what exists. I don't expect everybody to understand all the details of everything, but some of the members are new and weren't at that meeting. So we do have kind of 2 different categories we talk about access programs, and it's access to private land or access through private land to public land. So the top ones there are all access to private land opportunities. So block management, regional access projects, elk hunting access, and then we do have some kind of long-term access easement assignments. On the access through private land to public land pieces, again, we talked about PALAs today. We do have a tax credit program. We do have a Access Montana, as it historically was called, or Access Public Lands. And then we do have the new access corridor agreements. Those came to us last session. Albeit they could be considered their own program, but they could also be kind of considered a part of the regular block management agreements, but they are seeking access to public land through private. Overall, block management, we're working with more landowners than we've ever worked with before. 1,326 cooperators last year, almost $12.5 million. That $12.5 million, we just got numbers yesterday. It was pretty reconciled with our budget folks, but that's really where it's close. Almost 7 million acres of public land and private land. So when I say there's some isolated public lands or landlocked public lands on contracts, that also factors into that 6.8 million. And then one of the other notes, in 2021, I worked with Onyx to do an analysis of our inaccessible public land that is open because of block management. And so because we have that ability to cross the fence, as we kind of talked about earlier, going from private to public land, we're looking at almost 600,000 acres, or 20% of the state's landlocked public land is open because of block management agreements and willing landowners. So it doesn't get lost on us by any means that this is a program that exists because of willing landowners, because of private landowners that are willing to allow public access, for sure. So looking at total cooperators, like I mentioned, more than ever before, continuing to go up annually. It's just a great thing to have those relationships and continue to build those relationships locally, for sure. And that it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't exclude our enforcement staff, wildlife staff, or other staff that may be having those local relationships as well. But from an access perspective, we're working with more landowners than we've ever done before. This is what that looks like on a regional breakdown. So Region 6 has the most cooperators or landowners enrolled, followed by Region 7, Region 4 being next, and then 1 is very low, but 2, 3, and 5 are very similar in terms of just number. One thing to note, even though Region 1 may have the fewest, it's got about 10% of our private land enrolled in the program because of those corporate timber companies. So just because we don't have the land ownership breakups that we do there, doesn't mean that they're not having large area as well. In terms of acres, like I mentioned, 6.8 million was our total enrollment in 2025. It's continued to decline about 1% a year over the last 25 years, which is, again, not really new to folks. On a regional breakdown, this is what we're looking at. Region 6 has had some recent growth. Region 4 has had some recent growth. 3, 5, 2 are all about the same. And Region 7 has had about flat private land and public land. When we look at, like I mentioned before, block management, the totals we provide does include some isolated or landlocked public land. So I also try to tease that out and look at, okay, what is the private land ownership doing as it relates to just the private land in the program? And that's been relatively flat over the last few years. Looking at the average private acres enrolled per landowner, so that's one of the things we see is, what's the major cause or seeing the decline in program acres, and it's really that we're exchanging smaller properties for larger properties. So larger ones are leaving, and we're also getting smaller properties enrolled, and that's not unique to this program. It's actually a common thing happening across the state of Montana. U of M just did a survey about last winter that looked at the parcelization of Montana, and the number of parcels has gone up significantly as well. So we're seeing that translate our program, even though we're looking at the same or more landowners than we've ever had before. When we talk about contracts and contracted 100 days, use days, we are up significantly. If you guys will recall, we do have a couple of factors going on here. One is that we calculate 100 days on a 4-year rolling average. And so the landowner doesn't see a huge drop or a huge swing in any given year. Because if they go high payment 1 year, then they want to know why their payment drops significantly the next year. Game populations fluctuate, we have fire issues, etc. We do these contracts on a 4-year rolling average. And then we also do provide a little bit of an incentive in terms of a bonus for those that are in an aggregate BMA. So multiple landowners working together to create one block management area, they all receive additional days. So the contracted days isn't exactly the true number of days, but it's following that same trend of increased use over time. And what that 4-year average really plays out is the last 5 years and the recreation expansion in Montana for the demand for opportunity from the COVID years. When we talk about total private acres contracted per 100 days, this is a graph that Craig asked that I pulled last year. So we just updated it again this year, looking at the number of acres per contracted 100 day, which again, basically tells the same story that use is up, acreage is going down or slightly down. And so therefore you're seeing more contracted 100 days on less acres. Like we talked about payments. This is that overall graph looking at total landowner payments. Like I mentioned, for 2025, we're about 12.5 million. A good 5 and just over about 5.3 million of that is federal aid, so PR. We use about 5.3 million to pay landowner payments. You can see the big jumps there in 23, where when the department decided to go from a $13 to a $17 hunter day, that's the big increase there in 2023, as well as the legislature increased the cap from 25,000 to 50,000. However, while important, we don't see that the cap is the major player in terms of landowner participation. It has an effect for a small few because of the number of days it actually takes to get to that cap. So it's about 3,000 hunter days or just under to get to a $50,000 cap, which a lot of properties can't handle that level of use. So we don't have very many at the cap. It's about 15 landowners or 18 landowners, but most of them do experience those 100-day swings. So that anytime you do raise the daily rate, which is a department decision based on available funding, that's where that big gaps and jumps can happen.
Hey, Jason, would you go back and what did you say about the amount of PR dollars that funds this program? I missed that.
So, yeah, so right now, for the last 2 years at least, I can pull my budget numbers, but it's about 5.3 million of PR is what we're using to fund the overall 12.5 million in landowner payments. We just got our grant award for next year, for the fiscal year, and it's actually just slightly up. It's about 5.4 million. So overall, we're just over $5 million on how much we're putting into landowner payments. The rest of it would be general license or license from it's a hunter access earmark. So it's, if you'll recall back in October, Lena gave us a good budget report. If you guys want, those meetings are online and we can get you those numbers again, but basically looking through the fiscal years, it's been about 5.3 million recently. It was about 1.5 2 years ago prior to that, but recently it's been about 5.3 million.
No, that's what I needed. Thank you.
Yep. So because of the way the statute is written, that we can provide a up to 5% above the contract subtotal for weed management incentive. So that's what this is looking at, not marijuana, obviously. It's an incentive for landowners to provide more funds, up to 5% of their contract, for agreeing to use those funds to do some weed mitigation on their property. We do not, audit landowners to make sure they use those funds. We just ask them that they agree to it on the contract, that you have to use these funds, because it's probably nearly impossible to tease out how much of this $10,000 chemical bill you got from your block management contract. But that's where you see the same jump, is because in 2023, those 100-day prices went up, which means contract subtotals went up. And so now we're pushing almost $600,000 of weed management incentives provided to landowners as part of their payments.
So does that meet the demand for all of them?
I'm sure they would love to have way more for weed management or any other mitigation. Yeah. So looking at total impact payments. So again, this is a landowner payment. We pay on an impact basis. So they get a basic impact of $10.20. They get $3.40 if they allow hunting from September 1st to January 1st. And they get another $3.40 for allowing what we call the base species of deer, elk, antelope, upland birds, and waterfowl. So overall, it's $17 a 100 day. Those 100 days that are tallied, again, we talked about a 4-year average already, but basically this is what you're looking at in terms of how much money each region's landowners are receiving in terms of an impact payment, including the weeds. So Region 6 is pushing 3.5 million, just over 3.5 million. 7 and 4 are close. Montana is unique in that we do this on an impact basis. So those 100 days tally up, and that's how your payments are derived. It's not an access payment. It's not a habitat incentive or etc. Block management truly is impact-based payments. So the more impacts you have, the more money you receive. Talk about price per acre. This was one that the Upland Game Bird actually asked that I pulled. So this is looking at just private land acres, not anything to do with public lands, but then looking at how much we're paying per acre over time. And then you can see, even though acres have gone down slightly, we're paying more per acre today than we have even in 2022 to 2021. And the reason this is relevant is because a lot of landowners utilize other programs, whether it be CRP or even access opportunities. And they look, a lot of states actually pay on a per acre basis. And so this is where Montana would factor out in terms of an access program on a per acre basis, how we currently compensate, just over $2 an acre. This graph is super complex, but I wanted to provide it because it's part of your statutory obligation to report on harvest and observations and hunter satisfaction. So very complex, and I'll just go through it. And because we have a few minutes, I'll just explain it. So all of our harvest coupons, the second half of a permission slip, or the comment cards, or any type of feedback we get from hunters, that's what you're looking at here. So all this data has a huge asterisk because it's only about a 7 to 13% response rate that we get for all of those coupon stubs, comment cards, etc. So take that with what you will. But in terms of those responses that we've received and those percentages that observed game as they're hunting, You can see the dark blue graph by region. That's the regional breakdown. So region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 all have that dark blue line, and that's the reported hunters who observed game when they were hunting on the BMA. The red line is those that observed or harvested game, so a percentage of our overall harvest. If you filled out those slips before, we don't ask you until the end what you were hunting, whether it be those deer, elk, antelope, waterfowl, upland birds. We don't ask you on the front end of what you're hunting. It's usually on the back end. And so, you know, I don't know if upland bird hunters respond better or whatnot, but that's basically what you're looking at is just the overall statistics there. Satisfaction, again, reported satisfaction based off those response cards we get, or comment cards we get, which do range into the thousands. I mean, I don't want to say that 7% is small because sometimes that's still 70,000 coupons we're dealing with that still have pretty good data. But the green is the hunter satisfaction with those properties. We ask them, you know, please rate your experience satisfactory or unsatisfactory. That's what that green line is. One question that's been hot recently is residency breakdowns. And so we have our staff look at the percent of hunter days that are resident hunter days and the percent that are non-resident hunter days. Most regions have high levels of resident use and lower non-resident use. Region 6, the light blue color will actually show, and it's been proven in 24 as well, we had more non-resident hunter days than we did resident hunter days. So that trend has held true in 24 and held it bridged the gap a little bit this year. But that's one thing that is unique to Region 6 is that the number of hunter days overall is increased, but it's increased in a way that's more non-resident days than resident days. Region 7 is closer, but non-resident days haven't exceeded resident days yet. So this is a part of your guys' like I said, part of your requirements in your report. We'll have it for 2024 as well. The data looks very, very similar, even going back way prior to that. So the residency thing for Region 6 is new in terms of 24 was the first year we saw it surpass the non-resident days, surpass resident days. They held true at 25, but prior to that it was flipped. That's all I had on block management. Are there any other questions related to block specifically? Go ahead, Dale.
Just a quick question, maybe for Katie or you, Jason. The resident versus non-resident use in Region 6. Do you have any sense on how that might change with the changes in the bird hunting rules that will not allow non-residents to hunt on BMA or public lands for the first 2 weeks from here on? Thank you.
We don't have an idea on upland bird days because they may just show up 10 days later. So we'll kind of see how that happens for non-residents. The only thing that may show up a little bit is the commission's action to restrict or reduce the mule deer license opportunity. And so because the number of licenses were reduced, same with the resident number of days or number of licenses any one hunter could have were reduced. Those days might not show up statewide. I can't speak to Region 6 specifically, but I don't know if Katie has any thoughts or.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of just echo what you said, and we're not gonna know until we get numbers for the 2026 season.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on block management statistics? Okay. So, like I mentioned, hot off the press is elk hunting access agreements. So elk hunting access agreements, we opened the application up in early January. It is still open and we expect it to run through May 1st, which is by rule. But for the 2025 season, we had 31 landowners who had applied. 47 licenses or permits were issued to those landowners. And of the 31, 13 also participated in block management. So we had a total of 423,000 acres, but of that, only 270,000 were not also enrolled in block. So really kind of look at those numbers and think about those that are enrolled in block or not open to otherwise access. There's still about 271,000 acres open to public access through elk hunting access that wouldn't otherwise be open in block management. One of the things with elk hunting access that was unique last year or 2025 is we did not have to go to a post commission random draw. So for the previous 3 years, I believe, we had more applicants wanting permits, especially for the 690-20, which is our rifle season only, either sex permit and 690. We had more applicants than we had available permits. So the department recommends to the commission that we authorize no more than 10% above the commission approved quota through the biennial season setting process. And so that quota had always been at 50. 690-20 had been at 50. And so we had more applications previously that had to go to a post random draw. In 2025, we did not have any agreements that needed to go to that post commission draw. We also revised the public hunter sign up for type 1 block management properties. So when we talk about properties that are simultaneously enrolled in a type 1 where there's no permission required, no restrictions on the 100 days, we didn't want to make the EHA hunters also sign up through an online process because they could just go to the sign-in box and go. We had a number of years where we've had negative feedback from hunters where we struggle to match willing hunters with the EHA opportunities, even though it exists. So what we had tried out last year, and I think we'll carry forward this year, is that we've seen fairly good response to those that are type 1 BMAs simultaneously enrolled in elk hunting access, where there's no additional public opportunity provided. We just tell the hunters, just go. We aren't trying to match them on the front end. If there's a type 2, or if there's additional public or additional private land opened up through the landowner's elk hunting access agreement that's not in block, we would do a public hunter sign up for that. As well as those properties not enrolled in block, we do the public hunter sign up. So it was slightly revised in 2025. And then we also did some revised postseason survey methodology. This year, we focused on trying to utilize staff efficiency and staff time by doing just online surveys. So we did a online survey link for the landowner, and looking at their satisfaction, we do one for the landowner in terms of their harvest or their designee's harvest. We do one if the landowner selects a public hunter, because in this program, the landowner can select up to 1/3. And then we do one obviously for the FWP selected public hunters who also have the equivalent opportunity. So we did revise the postseason survey methodology a little bit for 2025. This is what we got in terms of results. So this is hot off the presses. We'll be going up to the commission next week. That about 93% of the respondents on the landowner's satisfaction scale were satisfied or satisfied with the experience of being in the program and with the behavior of people who participated or hunted their enrolled lands, and about 73% will participate again. So when the landowner licenses are issued, we had about 50% of them who responded who harvested an elk, and of that, 92% to branch antler bull during rifle season, hunting an average of 9.3 days. In terms of the landowner selected public hunters, so those that would like to select a public hunter, those landowners can do that. Like I said, they can select up to 1/3. About 20 of them opted to select 1/3. And for the survey respondents of those public hunters who were selected, 77% found it to be easy to contact a landowner or line up a hunting trip. And then of that, 69% of them reported they hunted enrolled lands. Just over 2/3 saw elk, hunted just over 6 days, harvested a number of branch antler bulls, and then reported satisfaction or high satisfaction with a desire to participate in the future. And these are the landowner selected public hunters. In terms of FWP selected public hunters, like I mentioned, we had a different survey process because we had a number of them that were also type 1 BMAs. And so we used coupons and contacted hunters either through their coupons. So we just take their permission information, call them up, say, hey, ask them the questions. And then we had one region where there was no permission required on the block. And so we actually did some postcard mailback surveys trying to secure responses from them. So from the public hunter side that responded, 84% found it was easy to contact the landowner or plan a trip. And then 73%, which is about half of them, reported that they hunted enrolled lands, just about half saw elk, hunting an average of 4.4 days with 13 elk harvested, and 70% satisfied or very satisfied with their experience. And then 70% reported they'd like to participate in the future. So this is FWP selecting from those sign-up lists, matching them with the hunting and the opportunity. And then the hunter agrees to go. We give them the information. They contact the landowner. It's totally on the hunter to work with the landowner to line up their opportunity. So it's a little bit different than what we did previously with those type 1s in this process. But for this year, we focus solely on those that we're providing additional opportunity or type 2 land. Any questions on elk hunting access?
So doesn't that hunter harvest seem low on the hunter side? I mean, you have 113. I don't know what the total was. Is it
So
30?
it would have been 79 of the 113 hunters responded. So out of the 79 who responded, 58 of them actually hunted. So you think 58 of 79, and of the 58, 13 harvested elk. Yeah, Craig.
Yeah, I just actually the same kind of question, Jason. Curious about the different percentages in the response, and then especially with the lower response on the block management stuff, is there an indication of those that responded were typically happier about the experience, or that they were more troubled by it? Is there any information about who responded and why based on that lower percentage? And I guess is the process for contacting these hunters different based on the response rate that we're seeing? Thanks.
So with those that were type 1 BMAs, like I mentioned, we did not have a public hunter sign up opportunity. So we contacted those hunters via phone or email after the fact and gave them verbally the survey. For all of the other ones, we're matching those on the front end. So all of the type 2 BMAs, any type 1 BMAs that had additional access, or even all of the property, the 271,000 acres that was not enrolled in public access, we then match all of those hunters on the front end. So we take the successful list, identify the opportunities, take that sign-up list, match those folks with the sign-up list, confirm with the landowner that those folks are okay to be there, and then we leave it to the hunter to coordinate public access with the landowner. From that perspective, for the landowner satisfaction survey, the landowner harvest, landowner selected public hunters, and then all these other FWP selected public hunters that were not in block management, we chose to do just an online Survey Monkey survey this year. We did not do any follow-up phone calls as been done previously. I did a survey, the first initial mailing or first initial survey to all those groups went out February 23rd. So just after elk shoulder season had closed. We gave it 2 weeks. I surveyed them again or sent a reminder on March 10th. And then we started pulling all this data just 2 weeks ago, about April 10th. So they had the opportunity to respond and they had the opportunity to fill out their survey. There are some additional comments that'll be in the final report with this from public hunters, but that's kind of where the survey responses differ. Is we historically would spend a bunch of staff time doing a bunch of phone calls to try and get boosted response rates. This year we chose to optimize staff time to focus on these other things as well as building landowner relationships, and left it to the landowners and hunters to respond to the online survey.
Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts on elk hunting access? So like I mentioned on that first graph, we have a number of tools in the toolbox. I don't want these to get lost because they are staff time, resources, as well as willing public lenders providing access. So in 2025, we did have a number of regional access projects, we call them, which is basically anything a lender wants to do in terms of private land hunting opportunity, we can pretty much accommodate. So we had a number of properties, whether it be City of Missoula or handicap opportunities. We also have continued to work with the Montana Prison Ranch, Deer Lodge, which is about 30,000 acres to coordinate hunting access. Region 4 has some waterfowl and some sheep hunting opportunity. And then Region 7, just late, I guess you could call it in 2026, had some late season elk opportunity on the Westmoreland line opportunity. We did have in place some biennial rule agreements. They were renewed in 2025 through the commission process. There's one in Region 1 and then 2 in Region 2, but basically it's providing for year-round recreation on private lands. That program is probably going to be a little bit minimized because of the changes we had through this last session related to land under active access agreements. So we don't necessarily have to have this biennial rule before the commission because the commission adopts all of those landowner rules through that legislative change from last session. So the biennial rules are still in place, but they'll probably start to tend to fade out. We actually had one region that was looking to maybe do one of those this coming year in terms of year-round public access that landowners going to provide. Like I mentioned, we have this APL or UPL or PAL as we already talked about, but there are a number of projects that are out there as well related to access to public lands and then all the PALs we reviewed at this meeting. Those are all on our website. We'll be all in the hunt planner. We're in the process right now of renewing the UPLs, so the unlocking public lands. We got no new applications. We do have those lenders who were in the program previously, probably still willing to do the same thing again this year. There are 4 tax credits with 3 landowners. It's a $750 income tax credit. And then public access land agreements, like I said, we just went through that process just now. All the ones that you guys renewed or recommending for approval are basically for our fiscal year 27 or the 2026 season. So it builds up to this point. I know they're not necessarily 2025, but it's basically the same thing for 25. So those were all the PALs. Anything related to these other access programs that exist out there? Any questions on those? Okay. One of the unique projects that's been in the works for a long time, and it finally got approved in actually the April commission meeting, was this assignment of public hunting access rights. So we have land trusts who've secured conservation easements. We've done this a couple different times. The conservation easement goes and finds the funding. They go work with the landowner, they secure the easement, and then they want to allow public access, or the landowner's willing to allow public access as a part of that easement. But the land trust does not have a way to manage users. So what they do is they work with FWP in the region to assign the public hunting access rights to FWP as a part of that easement. And so with this opportunity, we will have this block management area will stay very similar as it is now. But because of that easement, there's a minimum of 200 hunter days that are required. And it also improves access to over 65,000 acres of state and federal lands. So it's quite a unique opportunity. The land trust will hold the easement. We just are assigned the public access rights of that easement. So it'll be in place. Again, the commission just adopted it in April. This project's actually been in the works for almost 8 years, I believe, to try and get it to this point. So we're happy to see that as a tool in the toolbox and see it go forward and have that case manage opportunity to the public land as well as the private opportunity going forward.
So Jason, on these, is this kind of the pilot?
We've done about 5 other ones of these. This is the 3rd one that I've been a part of. couple were done prior to me.
And so how do you determine the 200 day requirement?
That was worked with the region and the current landowner. I think their block management agreement is close to like 1,000 days, but that was just the minimum set. I don't know if trend is still on. I could address that or not.
So they're going through a block.
They're currently administering their access through block management. And we'll continue to do that. Trent, I don't know if you have any feedback on how that number was arrived at, or
Yeah, 200 have been talked about for a while. It is about 400 average 100 days for the block management contract. The 200 comes from just looking at our other projects, including FWP conservation easements that have been done in Region 2. And 200 is kind of a safe number just because of that fluctuation. There was once upon a time where Case Ranch was only getting a little under that 200 mark, so we thought that that was a conservative approach.
So that's just, that minimum is just kind of a guideline.
Yeah, so
it's part of the easement.
it's part of the easement, and for instance, Chair Beal, so if they were to ever not enroll in block management and it was still just conservation easement held by Five Valleys Land Trust, they would still be required to provide a minimum of 200 days, regardless if they were in or out of block management.
Okay. And then how long would the easement run? Is it perpetual?
Perpetual, correct.
So that's all way to go.
Yeah, these sound really good. Can you tell us what the payments have been on these? Do you know what they are? They seem to be pretty large payments. Are they not?
Sorry, for the purchase of the conservation easement?
Yes.
So since it was funded outside of FWP, I actually don't have that number right off the top of my head for you. I could definitely provide that later on. It is wide open. We did do a public announcement about it. The only essential funding part per se from FWP standpoint is that we are accepting the management of the hunting access. So we didn't contribute monetary funds to the project.
Yeah, okay, I understand that. I was just curious to see what these payments were. If you could send that out, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So, like I mentioned, there are a number of changes from the 25 session that we're going to be implementing or are implementing right now this year. One of them is programmatic, or is not really programmatic, but it's related to the non-resident base hunting licenses. So that went up. Non-residents are purchasing the base licenses now and previously, and that price did go up. As Dale mentioned, there's Senate Bill 514, which would delay the upland bird start dates for non-residents hunting private land enrolled in an FWP access program. So that includes block management, but that also includes some of our open fields and upland game bird projects where non-residents can't hunt those first 10 days on land enrolled in FWP access program. 148, landowners have always had the ability to designate a license to a family member or employee. As we looked at with landowner preference, that definition may change, vary, but for access, it's full-time and year-round employees, and then immediate family members, just like permits. But now they can also designate that license benefit to a person with physical or a developmental disability. That's currently ongoing. Landowners right now are contracting, and they can make that designation if they want to. As a side note to that, we're also offering e-tags. So landowners who want to designate or receive their block management license by e-tag, they can choose to do that right now as we contract as well. 441 is our enforcement network. So similar to the Wildlife Violator Compact, if somebody's convicted for breaking the rules on a block management area enrolled in the network, that conviction then applies to all lands enrolled in the network. So we're currently opting in landowners right now I know for at least Region 7, we have over 100 landowners who have opted into the network. I can't speak to the rest of the state, but I expect we'll have a fairly high number of landowners participating in the network. And we will note that through the public on our access guide. And we also have plans to work on some mapping into the future, as well as some potential signage on the ground for users. But we will have a list of all the properties participating in the network on our website this fall. We'll also do some more communication, education, awareness per that law. We need to provide that as well. Senate Bill 83, we talked about briefly those commission adoption of private landowner rules. So if somebody is under an active access agreement with the department, then their rules become commission rules, and our enforcement staff have that ability to write for a commission rule violation, in addition to other tools in the toolbox. But we think of this, like I said, probably taking the place of some of that biennial rule stuff we currently do. We'll just put them under an active access agreement. And then lastly, the block management access corridor that came to us again last session. It is a tool to open up access to public land. We ran the application period from early January till March 15th to end it just with our other tools doing the similar things. And to date, we've had a couple of landowners interested, but not had any applications that we're going to push to the commission at this time.
On HB 763, how did landowner get an opportunity?
So we did a couple press releases along with our other program to try and market that opportunity. I know some regions did some local work with radio and some print stuff, but we did do a letter to our current cooperators, block management cooperators, to express that as well. If they maybe had a different parcel that wasn't in their block, this was another option for them. But we didn't do anything mass market direct marketing on just that program. Yeah. Yep. It was one of the options we marketed with the other option.
What? Sure, if you don't mind. I think to your point, it was previously in rural, so people knew about it, but I think just reintroducing them to that, it is another option. Is what we were attempting to do there. Is that correct, Jason?
Yeah. Yeah. We've had access corridors for at least since 1996. When the department did some red tape relief of our administrative rules, we took that out, which then raised some concerns of whether or not we could do it, which got it back into statute that yep, you can continue the access options for corridors.
Yeah. Okay.
Paul, did you have a question, or is your hand raised still from before?
No, I got just a quick question. Under HB 145, increasing the non-resident based hunting license, is that additional $35 go to strictly block management, or does it go to the department's general fund?
It is broke down into portions, but $40 of the 50 will go to the hunter access. Okay. Like I said, not to forget about it, not to forget about your statutory obligation to report on it. We do have a number of private land fishing opportunities. In 2025, we had over 20 multi-year agreements with the average payment about $5,100, and some were non-monetary in terms of a stocking opportunity. The fisheries division is currently working through our administrative rule process to update the language and rule, which said we had to stick to our 2002 scoring form. So PLPW discussed this at maybe your October meeting. Can't remember exactly which date it was, but to provide more flexibility in terms of increasing payments to landowners. So we are looking to currently do that right now through this rule process, which provide basically following program guidelines. So that's kind of the process of updating that rule to give the program that flexibility to reflect your guys' recommendations. So that is my presentation on our 2025 programs. Any other questions or thoughts or comments?
No questions? So on the fishing access, is there kind of a time period you're looking at where you think you can get there? For the next step?
Yeah, I mean, we have a agency commitment to add 15 PLFAs yet this year. Going forward from that, it'll be probably after the 27 session when we get an appropriation to actually increase funding. Right now, we're set at $50,000 per year. We're seeking to increase that, but that's kind of where it would take off. It's probably early to mid next year. Anyway. Okay, let's look at my boss. I don't know if Renee has any other thoughts.
No, I think you got it, and it was really helpful when the council reviewed that program and gave the recommendation that we focus on those landowners that have historically been part of it. So staff has been focusing on those circumstances.
That's great. Yeah. Okay. No additional questions or comments on all the access programs that Jason just ran through? It's a lot.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I'm really impressed. Great job, Jason. I appreciate you guys and all your work on that presentation. That was awesome. Is there any way you could email that to us? I'm assuming you would, but
I would be happy to.
thank you. And thanks again for all your hard work.
Appreciate it. Like I mentioned, it's a huge agency effort. You think about all of those programs we just discussed, every division, every part of this agency has a role to play with making those successful. So while our access staff are fantastic, we also have to give a shout out broadly. I mean, it's it's amazing what it takes to pull those off. So I just appreciate everybody's support.
Yeah, and I'll just reiterate that over time, especially focusing on the regions, just what it takes out in those places with the variance in the topography, the geography, the neighborhood, all of it. The way each of those access managers make those 35,000 annual contacts. You know, we're always concerned about that. So it's a great, I guess, number to try to put to it. That's a tremendous amount of work. That's a lot of contact. And the fruits of it certainly bear out in what the programs are. So congratulations to all of you in those 7, almost 8 regions. In the work that you do, we clearly see it and appreciate it on this committee. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we are up to public comment.
Yes, sir. Would you like to start that now?
Sure.
Okay. This is the public comment time for the PLPW meeting. If you would raise your hand, if you would like to make public comment, we will go through the list. First up is Kent Gear. Kent, you're able to speak. Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Excellent. So I really appreciate all the detailed information, all the personal efforts that this team is making to open up access for hunters and anglers all across the state. But I feel that one of the lacking parts of this program is the reporting, right? Even with special access for branch antler, bull hunting and the like you just mentioned, we're still only getting a very limited portion of participants reporting back. Is there a way? I know that the idea of implementing mandatory reporting for all tags in the state is a big undertaking from a logistics side and an infrastructure side for the state, but is there a way or a thought at current on how to implement that for these specialty programs or for block management, that there be a mandatory reporting component, being that we're having such miserable response at less than 10% on average for reporting? We're just not getting any good data on how much good these properties are actually doing for people's freezers and the like. Is there a thought or an idea on how we could potentially implement a mandatory reporting structure for that?
Comment.
earlier?
Yeah, I can. I'll probably defer to Quentin Kujula, Chief of Policy. But anyway, yeah, related to our block management and access therein, we do have anticipations of looking at post-hunt survey work from hunters to respond. Whether we geofence it and they leave the BMA and then they have to respond before they can sign in, or other ways like that. We've discussed using those digital tools to try and seek improved hunter feedback. And I think that'll happen as well with a mobile check-in on some of those type 1 BMAs. But as far as an agency's perspective, I guess I'd probably defer to Quentin.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Thanks for the question. Maybe take it to the most fundamental layer, just mandatory reporting of harvest, if that's a way to say that. We have defined a pathway to get there, the things that would need to happen to get to that capacity. So it's not yet in place, but we are framing that pathway through the lens of it being visible, it being capable someday, sooner rather than later. Probably something behind block management development, certainly something behind licensing development that Michael talked about on the front end of the conversation today. But we build it so that if it could be put in place as an opportunity for the public to take advantage of, or that same structure would facilitate some sort of required element to the reporting. And that's an open question because it was an interesting conversation last session about required or not. So lots of folks have different opinions on mandatory reporting. So we have a pathway. We've not walked it all yet. More to come.
I appreciate that greatly. Have the landowners themselves that are participating in it, do they have concern about the lack of reporting or the lack of understanding of how many animals are being harvested to date? That didn't seem to be a part of the conversation to date. But if I were participating, which I hope to be in the future, of this program, that would be very vital information to me.
Yeah, that's a good point as it relates to elk access, Kent. The only feedback we've received really from landowners is they are more or less frustrated when the public doesn't take them up on the opportunity. So if you think about FWP matches them probably in August or even September for a general license opportunity, hunter accepts, hunter fills tag somewhere else and never reaches out to the landowner. We see some of that happening with the program where hunters actually don't take the opportunity, which then results in a frustrated landowner because they want to provide that opportunity as well.
Understood. Is there a supplemental list to fill that opportunity if that were to happen, or they don't contact by a certain date?
Not at this point.
Understood. All right. Again, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate all y'all's efforts on our behalf.
Thank you. Again, this is the public comment time. If you have public comment or would like to make public comment, please go ahead and raise your hand. Assume Mr. Farron, go ahead.
Hi there, Chair Beal, committee members. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. Can. Yes, Kevin.
Okay, great. Kevin Farron here with the Montana Wildlife Federation. Thanks again for all your time. I'll be brief today. I just really want to give a tip of the hat to Mr. Cool and the department, under a lot of the recommendations from this committee. It's really clear that you're listening to some of the concerns from hunters. I'll just point out one example on the EHAs and the feedback you've been getting about those properties enrolled in the block management and how you're handling that. I just really want to make sure that you guys are getting the credit you deserve for, being open-minded and listening to some of the questions and concerns that you're hearing from groups like this and public like our group. And yeah, just keep it up. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, this is the public comment time. If you would like to make public comment, please raise your hand. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. So next we have our June meeting, potentially June 1st, 2nd, 3rd.
Yeah, so based off the committee's feedback from previous meeting, there was a desire to do a field visit or field tour. We talked about what that would take and we looked at some opportunities, stuck those dates on the calendar. And so it's really the committee's decision if you want to make investment to do a field tour, which would probably add a full day to your meeting, or if you prefer to do a different format and different location. One of the things we had suggested, because at least in my almost 9 years or just over, we have not been to Northeast Montana with this committee. So we had talked about seeing the new Glasgow office and having a meeting there in Glasgow, which would allow us to also see this Whitmayer project that you guys just approved, or at least made a recommendation to approve. So we have that flexibility to do that if that's what the committee desires. Like I said, the thought would be that it would take a full day for probably the field tour, which then leaves you about a day or day and a half of work. Like we talked about, that's kind of the culmination of your recommendations, or at least the framing of finalizing and narrowing down on those recommendations. Plus you got to think about travel time. So we're happy to accommodate whatever format the committee would like to do. If you'd like to still have that in-person meeting there, we can make that happen. If you'd like to do something different, we're certainly here to listen to what that would be. I know because of the distance, we had talked about potentially doing a full day like on Monday versus our kind of half-day travel format we've done before, because I assume most would probably travel that Sunday, which would allow us to do basically a full day meeting on Monday, starting probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock. We would have a field day tour in there. So I expect it'd probably be the full 2 days in person plus a half, as far as like a day and a half of meeting and then a full day of field tour. So however we shake that out, but that's kind of what we're thinking in terms of commitment. I don't know, again, it's up to the committee if that's something you'd like to do, still like to do, have other ideas, we're happy to accommodate.
Discussion. So we're looking at potentially driving on Sunday, the 31st of May, and then full day meeting on Monday, the 1st. And we're on the 2nd.
Probably, we're close to it. I don't know if we can get all of your recommendations built in all topic areas in one day, or if we need to do a day and a half and then kind of a late on the second day, late night travel and things.
So we theoretically could be 31st and leave on the 4th.
I wouldn't think you would need to take that long on the 3rd. Like I think you could get out half day travel on the 3rd.
Okay. All right. So drive Sunday, meeting and tour Monday, Tuesday, half of Wednesday, and head home Wednesday afternoon.
That's kind of the thought we had. If you'd like to make the field tour and are willing and able to make that level of commitment to time.
So discussion.
Go ahead, Dale, and then Dave.
I like that plan. I really like having the meeting on Monday and then looking at a field tour on Tuesday for purely selfish reasons. I'm going to be driving out of state beginning early on Wednesday morning, so definitely will be going home Tuesday night. But I'd really like to see that Whitmeyer property. But I also think we have business at hand, and I really like the idea of meeting all day Monday. Thank you.
Additional comments?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, I just wanted to remind everybody to plan ahead. The 2nd of June is election day. So if they want to vote, they should vote early.
Thanks, Dave. Stephanie.
Well, I'm guessing there will be a Zoom option. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make that long of a stay. We're leaving to Saskatchewan.
For the meeting portion, we would have a Zoom option for sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Donna.
We have a big group at the ranch checking in that time frame. I'll try to be there, but it's kind of iffy for me at this point. But I'll zoom in.
Oh, you're talking. Yeah, you're not muted, but go ahead, Dale.
Just maybe it'd be warranted, Mr. Chairman, just to see how many people are truly interested in going on the field tour. Again, I know there are some, but at the same time, I know what effort it takes from the regional staff to arrange transportation and everything else that goes with it. So, maybe if there's not enough interest because of other commitments, maybe we forego the field tour. Just maybe it's worth scouting out the group over. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dale.
We could always use the regular format, do it, Great Falls, Billings. We don't have any options available at this point. We don't have anything where we're locked into anything at this point too. So.
Yeah, and to reiterate, the meeting itself is fairly critical. It's everything forward into 27. So the meeting itself is the most important aspect of this. Seeing the property that we're talking about is a bonus. So I think we need to get there. I think the tour could be either or, opt in or opt out. And then let's see where we're at with. We know Donna is iffy. Stephanie, no, or is a no.
Sorry, just real quick. With this being such a critical meeting, would it be maybe, like Jason suggested, beneficial where we hold more of a normal format on that first second, get what we need to get done, and then maybe on another meeting we tack on and do the Glasgow or do a different location where we got a little bit more time. It just feels like it's kind of bad timing with election year and legislative, and this is just such a big meeting. I think we're adding a lot, which is a lot of a commitment for most folks on this board.
Okay, so to narrow this down, would it be the preference of the committee to do a meeting in a more central location? But we're still on a different timeline then. So and we've got 2 people missing today, so that potentially 4.
You could look at your typical format, right, and do an afternoon of the first, all day the second, and morning of the third, which would allow travel morning of the first and the afternoon of the third for folks if you prefer to keep the regular meeting format. Again, I don't have a preference, but that June meeting is really where I hope to really refine everybody's recommendations, primarily on almost all topic areas, because we need to have a report drafted and over to EQC by the first part of August. So,
yeah. So in terms of the time, the meeting, if it's more centralized, does that change anybody in terms of the first and second in a more central location?
Go ahead, Paul.
I'm sorry, I'm having some audio problems coming in and out, but I just think with the election on the second, it's going to be hard to vote unless you're absentee. I don't know. Assume all of us are absentee voters, but is there any way we could maybe move it in late May instead of putting it in the first week of June? Also, and I just had back surgery, so I won't be able to make a trip like that for a little while. Maybe a shorter trip and not way up there. So that's my thoughts.
So the week before is Memorial week, if you will. Yeah,
I'm not available that week, Tuesday through Friday, if that matters, but.
yeah, you do.
If you want to keep it with the regular format, I can send out some doodle dates.
Goes chair.
So, yeah, we better just do a doodle.
We can do that. If folks want to keep the regular meeting format. Is that correct? Right here.
No.
Okay. We're probably gonna get
this
what we
is
get.
So important.
Go ahead.
And I think just having a tour is just going to make it that much longer. I think tacking on a tour when we have a less long meeting, that's less important. I mean, all of our meetings are important, but obviously this one's really important.
So you think we could stay with those first, second, and third and look at Great Falls or Billings? Would that work? For folks? Sorry, Katie. Sorry, Lee. The further we get into summer, the harder it gets for people, and that last week of May is going to be really difficult. There's a couple industry group meetings that week. Solo parenting.
Yeah, so we probably wouldn't be ready the week of the 18th of May for what we need. So can't go that direction. And I agree with Jason, the further we get into June, the more challenging it's going to be. So, let's go back to this. Who cannot be available on a Zoom for the 1st and 2nd of June? So who cannot be available for a Zoom on the 1st and 2nd of June if you don't travel to another location? So am I hearing that everybody could at least be on a Zoom Monday, the 1st and Tuesday, the 2nd of June? And I realize the election. So everybody could at least get on a Zoom those 2 days. So if we did it, Great Falls or Billings, wherever, just for that meeting purpose, is everybody on board with those days? Or not, speak up.
That would be fine with me.
So what I'm hearing, if we run a regular meeting on the 1st and 2nd, whether it's half and whole or whatever it is, everybody can at least attend that on a Zoom or in person in a central location. Correct? We good?
I would love
Chris
Billings.
and I. Okay, Billings. Chris and I are going to drive up there to Glasgow anyway, so we can catch up.
Okay, I think. So you're thinking a half day the 1st, whole day the 2nd, and we'll accommodate room and lodging as folks need it to make that happen. Okay.
Everybody hear that? Potential plan, half day meeting on the 1st, all day on the 2nd. Any accommodation needs will be met.
I will work with our staff to see what availability our regional offices may have for those dates, and apologize to Heather and Luana for me, Katie.
She's speechless.
Nobody wants to come see us. I'm bummed.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's where we'll head with that. Dang it, I'm with you. I'm gonna go up there. Check that all out. Okay, so member home reports. So I'm gonna start and keep it real simple. I just want to commend Cheyenne for a great Region 3 dinner for the landowners. It was really great. Owner appreciation. It was really great visiting with folks in Region 3. Just always impressive to hear their comments and why they participate. And it was just a really good all-around event. So thank you for doing that. I know you did 3 or 4 of them in total in Region 3. And that's all I'm going to say. The fishing's good. Turkeys are around. Don't know if it's spring or winter, but that's Montana for you. So then let's go to Lee so you can express your disappointment right away about not coming to Glasgow.
Well, we're used to being rejected, so we'll just get over it. And we'll come see you guys. That's what we get to do anyway. So we're looking forward. We got our irrigation project. We're getting mountain water into the Milk River now through the St. Mary system. It was broke down on June 24th of 24, and it was the big siphons were in last year, and we fixed the other one, so now we can actually bring water out of Glacier Park to the bottom end of the Milk River. So we're looking forward to that. We're just waiting for our snow now. Our country looks pretty good, really, and it's greening up. And if we get a little moisture, we'd be okay. We were hoping you were going to come up here because it rains and then you can't go anywhere. You'll just have to sit in town and look at it on TV or something. So anyway, that's it. It looks good here. We got most everything. We had a nice winter and we had some snow and the creeks ran a little. We got water in the dams and going to have some irrigate water better than last year. So I think it's all good. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Lee. Stephanie?
We're kind of in the same boat. It was a mild winter, hoping for some more moisture. Looks like it's gonna snow here the next couple days, of course. That's just spring in Montana. I attended the Region 4 dinner here in Lewistown. It was a lot less attended than it was in previous years. I did send Jason some feedback on that. Turkey opener was really nice. I went out personally myself. It seems like there definitely is a lot less pressure in some of the turkey areas, I think due to the non-resident 10-day block. So that is a win. I've been to several brandings and I have been repeatedly hearing how terrible the shed hunters that are trespassing is just a huge problem. So that is just something I regularly hear from landowners. And then our bear management unit in 411, which is a huge unit with lots of bears, closed within a few days because we had a very extremely low subquota of 2 female bears. So there's kind of some scuttlebutt in our area that our season is already closed for bears. Other than that, everything's looking good. Lots of elk, definitely seeing a lot more mule deer, lots of antelope. Things are looking up. And thank you guys for all the hard work you guys do there at the department. I really appreciate all you guys.
Thanks, Stephanie. Rich?
Yeah, everything's good in our country. We got some good, valuable moisture in the last week and a half or so, and hoping for some more. But everything's advanced. Seems like we're like a month ahead of schedule with our grass and that. Bears are moving earlier in the mountain areas than they usually are, but yeah, we're in good shape. But like I said, we're early on the spring, so hopefully we get some moisture between now and June. I got a busy spring bear schedule coming up here in May, and almost wish I would have scheduled them a little sooner. But yeah, all is well.
Rich, thank you. Craig, how's the all the hunting training going on these days?
Well, we're traveling quite a bit with all that, and it just seems to be at a kind of that point where it may really expand, and we're trying to figure out how to keep up with that if that's what happens. But it's been fantastic, and a lot of great kids and a lot of great hunting opportunities because of it. So it's been rewarding and to be able to be a part of that. So thank you. Yeah, I think the other thing is just like everyone said, I think we're all still waiting to see how this is going to turn out in Region 2. I don't think big game could be in any better shape than they are coming out of this lack of winter, just essentially no winter at all. So, we'll see what hits the ground as far as fawns and calves and that kind of thing. We cooperate with a big game survey. We flew that 3 weeks early this spring, than normal. And so that's kind of the state of things here. So it's raining right now. And so we'll see if we can hold off the smoke for a while, but that's kind of where we're at. I'll also say that our mule deer have the highest fawn recruitment they've had since I've been on the ranch. And that's true in the areas around us. So for Western Montana, when you have 70 fawns per 100 adults, that's a big deal. So we kind of hit it out of the park here on that one. And thank you to the agency and all the information. Jason, you guys sincerely appreciate the work you do.
All right, thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. Chris?
Probably had the unmute. Nope.
You're good.
Probably had the mildest winter I've ever had up here. We didn't get much moisture at all, so it's obviously good for the ungulate population, but we didn't get very many mountain lions killed, so that's not good. And there's a lot of them, so that's the downside. So, but other than that, everything's great. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Dale?
Well, turkey season's underway and numbers seem really good. And kind of like Stephanie said, I've been out a handful of times and just not seeing much pressure yet. Our last meeting, we talked about hunter ed, and we had our Miles City hunter ed classes in the last month. We had 2 classes and both of them were full. We had 30 to 35 students per class, and they went well. And we have a field session, I think, in June or July, where we take the students that take the online class and just have the field day. But well received, well attended. Of course, the drought and fire concerns are real, and if you paid attention to the news, they've got a pretty good fire going in the Red Lodge area already, and with very active fire behavior. And I think there's a lot of people that are very concerned about where our fire season may take us this year. A couple other notes. Got a call from a landowner down in 704, and he said he was talking to some other landowners and some outfitters in 704, and they were very concerned over the kind of the 11th hour increase in rifle or not rifle, but any elk tags in 702 southeast Montana. They think it's just going to put a lot more pressure on the public lands that they feel like are already overhunted and in 704. And that individual just asked me to relay that their concern to this group. Other than that, that's about all I have. Great presentation, Jason, and from the BMA people. Really appreciate the discussion today on the PALAs. I thought they were well prepared and some really good information. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. Paul?
Well, I don't have much. I really want to thank the department, Jason and the crew, and they've done a lot of hard work here, and it's not doesn't go unnoticed. About the only thing I think I've been hearing a little bit is some poor hunter behavior on some of the block management, some of the public access stuff. But other than that, I think everything's going good. I think Bozeman's had least amount of moisture we've ever had that I've been alive anyway over here. We could sure use some more. So anyway, just want to thank everybody for attending and putting some effort into this.
Thank you, Paul. Cindy.
I'd like to thank everyone for the information you've provided during this meeting. Good meeting. The animals around here look pretty good. And I've seen a lot of antelope and deer everywhere. The dinner in Butte for the landowners was pretty well attended, I thought, and I got to talk to all of the landowners, and they seemed pretty happy with being in the BMA projects. I didn't hear anything. Plus, they actually said that they weren't particularly disturbed by the hunter activity and their behavior. I was kind of surprised by that. The one thing that I received complaints on are glitches in the computer registration for this year's tags. That's it. Oh, hey, and Cheyenne, I'll see you Friday.
Dave.
Yeah, there was a couple comments I want to make on the first part of the meeting we did today with new technology, and this is coming from a guy that is very, very low tech. But you have to buy your licenses online. They want you to use e-tags. They want you to have a smartphone out in the field. But the mountain land regulations say no electronic two-way communication is allowed. That's one thing that I don't think we want to butt heads with. As far as the wildlife in our area, there should have been no winter kill on deer or elk, which is probably a good thing because we only killed 23 lions in Region 7. So we're probably going to have to budget in about 1,000 of the mule deer to feed the lions that should have been taken. Spring bear season is open. Took 3 days to fill the quota on hunting with hounds. That should be a no-brainer that the quota needs to be higher. One hunter was out here in 2 hours. He saw 6 bears. The number of bears is not a problem. The number of elk is a problem. When you have 150 of them per night coming into your hay fields, it's not good. Other than that, we're in good shape if we can get some good rain. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And Donna.
Thanks. Thank you all. It was a good meeting, very informative. I liked Jason's presentation. And visiting with a couple of the BMAs in my area, they mentioned, of course, the trespassing and the hunter behavior, which is pretty common. I was happy to hear Cindy's comment, but I also wrote and asked if they cannot get a hold of their game warden, is there a step 2 or another step that these BMAs can take? And there really isn't. And so I've been trying to think of a solution to that, how we can help them, because we all know those poor game wardens are spread so thin. So just maybe in the back of our brains, is there a second place they can call? Is there something else they can do that we can list out to help these BMAs? So yeah, I do have one idea that I'm not going to discuss right now. I'll send a letter, but it will take legislation, but we can discuss that at a later date. But thank you. Great meeting.
Thank you, Donna. Okay, so I think we're good. Appreciate everybody being on here today and your deliberations and your input. It's critically important that we get that feedback and pushback and whatever it is, because that's how we go forward in the best manner. So I appreciate it. I would add, a couple of you reminded me, we did our first bow hunter ed class here a couple weeks ago in Helena, and it was way over capacity, which was great to see because we hadn't had that really since COVID. And Dale, you brought that up in my mind. It was very well done and very well attended. So I was really happy to see that it was a real mix of adults and youth. It was primarily an online mix with in person. They were in person, but with the required day and the online team too. So, and then back at the Region 3 dinner, the one comment I had similar to Donna in regards to trespass, and I think Stephanie brought it up, it really related to horn hunting and reminding folks that now horn hunting is hunting in terms of enforcement. I think it's just some of the landowners at that dinner hadn't heard that yet. And so some of them found out about it. So they can get some help with it in this time of year when it's so prevalent. And then we did make connections locally to go and try to help some of those landowners with some other issues, whether it's through RMEF or other organizations that want to help landowners deal with some of that time that's involved in addressing those things, whether it's signage or whatever it might be. So just encourage you to think about that in your area where you're running into that. So with that, Jason, you have anything additional? Okay. Again, thanks to all of you for being on here and taking your time. We know it's a big deal, and thanks to the department for the work they're doing and good reports. And we'll see where we go in the next June meeting with what's coming up. So appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you
Take
guys.
care.
Bye.